Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is sent to the Pokemon World Harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Guy Fawkess, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. The blonde young man stared at the rocky terrain with a deep scowl. His look was that of a young man barely out of his teenage years, but physically, he was older than the soil he sat on. His slit sapphire eyes were full of unimaginable boredom as he swiped a lock of long, unkempt hair away from his face, dust and grime, masking vibrant blonde to an earthly brown. He had a pair of tattered black shorts and deep red t-shirt, a pair which should have been dissolved long ago if they weren't actually made by blonde's chakra. He was doing this for millennia now, maybe even eons, he stopped counting or caring long time ago, just staring the dust play around the world once living beings existed. Nearly everyone he knew already dripped down to the ethereal lake and reborn in different dimensions. He could go to one, the summoning realm, but he figured it would cause mass panic, perhaps they even attack him. He shrugged. He had no patience for something like that. He might end up purging that dimension. He shuddered. He kind of deserved this anyway. He refused to remember more of that incident chain, no reason to dig that can of worms. Still, he was bored beyond belief. Perhaps he would go to another dimension, but not summoning dimension. He racked his brain for any other dimension with life, none came to mind. Perhaps not in this dimensional tree. His eyes lit up. Why not changing the tree he is in altogether then? Surely, there is something in a different one. He clapped his hands together. Guchius. Ito Tensei. He summoned his project squad, which had been sleeping for a long time. He came back to awake world. The last thing he remembered was his old team helped him to open a dimensional portal to another dimension tree. He stepped and blacked out. He groaned as he felt himself regenerating his chakra. He guessed the portal took a huge chunk of it as a toll. There was a gasp. He froze. He may be hard to kill, but he much preferred if no one tried yet at the very least. He collected a little more chakra and finally managed to open his eyes to see a fox and a jackal. But they were a little different. For one, the jackal was bipedal with metal plates on its paws, and he felt an illusion around them cast by the fox. It was weak, he could see through it even with his worn-down condition, but it would probably fool a low-rank ninja. Up to Chunin perhaps. Still, he was amused at the effort and showed it didn't work by looking directly at them. The jackal was the first one to realize his slit eyes were following their attempt at sneaking around the edge of the forest. The same animal waved at him to check if he was right. He grinned back. Their intelligence impressed him. However, that was nothing until the jackal clearly whispered something to its companion and the latter responded with same. His ears caught some syllables but no meaning as far as he knew. Perhaps no, most likely they were talking in a language foreign to him. His sharpened gaze caught jackals as he probed the animal's mind. A moment in real life later the syllables had meaning. The fox, Zoro, was shaking the dazed jackal, Riolu. Riolu. Riolu, we must go before this crafty. Where are you, little bastards? They both whimpered as they went as silent as they can. Another bipedal lizard-like Oni Pokemon got out from bushes. Its eyes scanned the area. If the power difference wasn't so high, Zoro wouldn't have to hide them with its illusions, and Riolu wouldn't have any problem with smacking it around. The Riolu thought as it gritted its teeth in frustration. I know you are here. It said smugly, but Naruto figured it can't see the duo. The illusion must be working on it. By now, he managed to recover enough to get up and start kicking. Movement made the scaly Pokemon focus on the blonde. A human. You are their master? It asked rhetorically. The bastards left you here, eh? No matter, you are first to go. It bellowed and rushed to him. He blocked the high kick and grabbed the Pokemon's ankle. He swung it around and threw it to a tree. Back. It slammed harshly and slid down. There were swirls in its eyes. He blinked at the ridiculous sight. He turned and he was face to face with two pairs of bewildered eyes. He thought about taking them with him. The reason he performed the dimensional leap was to not be alone anymore and gaze at something other than a wasteland. He gave a mental shrug and moved closer to them. When he was a few feet away, Zoro hid behind Riolu and the latter took a defensive stance. He ignored their shift and knelt down at an arm's length. The Riolu closed his eyes and gritted his teeth, expecting a blow, a throw, anything. Anything but a hand caressing his head softly. He grimaced a little, then soft red slit eyes met sharper blue ones. Naruto opened his mouth to ask for them to come with him, but he decided against it when he thought they might not understand the language he speaks. And he didn't think he can use their language directly. Solution. Genjutsu. He used Genjutsu to replicate the sounds made by Riolu. They were confused and looked around for another Riolu. Did you hear that? Zoro asked Riolu, who nodded. Yes, but I can't see any other Pokemon. A chuckle drew their focus back to the blonde. It was me. I can use illusions like you Zora, and mine can't trick any or all senses. You can fool more than sight. How? The Zora asked. Naruto hummed. I use a special energy for that. It doesn't matter. What I wanted to ask you is, do you want to come with me? The Pokemon duo was saddened by the question. Naruto was confused and replayed the question in his mind to find anything wrong with it. They were silent for some time. Riolu. I accept. The Pokemon decided with grim resolve. I accept because he sent a glance at the Scrafty still out cold. Because I know we will be safer with you. Zoro will be safer with you. He is the Pokemon's voice cracked. He is all I have after I lost my pack, my family. So the Pokemon took a shaky breath to calm himself a little. I will do anything to make sure he is safe. I am ready, throw your capture stone. Riolu puffed his chest a little to brace himself. Naruto blinked at the Pokemon. I don't know what you are talking about. Even if I did, I would not force you to come with me if you don't want to. I already take something from you Riolu, I will not take your freedom too. Riolu let the breath he was holding out. Take something what did you took from me? There wasn't anything came to the Riolu's mind. He was not angry, just curious. Knowledge. Important ones like your language. Another trick I can do is taking knowledge I need from others. I left anything personal alone. You are not from around here, are you? And not an ordinary human for that matter. Yes, you can say I am a foreigner. As for what I am, let's not get into that. There was another silence. Snore. The duo spotted the fainted Zora. He had been exhausted by keeping the illusion for so long and got knocked out when adrenaline worn off. Naruto didn't say anything, just took the fox into his arms and got up. Let's find a place for rest. Do you know one? The blonde asked. Riolu nodded and led him to their home. It was base of a tree, there was a bush for some concealment. He saw leaves collected together as a makeshift cot. He gently placed the fox and his hands on them as a drop of water fell on his head. He stared at the heavens. It is going to rain. His gaze fell on the jackal. How are you avoiding it? Do you? The bipedal Pokemon sighed. We take shelter under the bush. It's better than nothing. The blonde clicked his tongue. That won't do. He went a little away from the tree and clapped his hands together. His hair arose a little from chakra usage. Riolu sucked a breath between his teeth from the sensation and fell down to his paws and knees. He could feel it. The power caressing him, hugging him, coiling around him as the ground bent under the blonde's will. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the feeling. It felt too soon when the blonde was finished. He almost whined. Almost. Let's get her. You alright? Naruto cut himself after he saw the Pokemon on ground. Riolu took a shaky breath. Why yeah, Jay, just give me a moment. He tried to stand up but fell down again. Naruto stared at the Pokemon for a moment, then went to fetch the fox. He frowned. He brought the fox to the cave he shaped, but Riolu was yet to come in. He went back to get the jackal. He was still trying to get up. Naruto sighed and carried the Riolu with him to the cave. What happened? My kind is sensitive to aura, the life energy. What you just used wasn't aura, but the jackal was at loss for words. Does it make you feel uncomfortable? No. I mean, no. It was just intense. I'll get used to it. Naruto hummed as he put the Pokemon next to Zora. I will go get some firewood. Riolu was alone with Zora in a few seconds. He let his mind wander to the feeling again. The strong presence, the phantom tendrils caressing him, rubbing against him. His adolescent mind was working against him. The presence took form as the blonde tendrils replaced with hands. He was hugging him, and his hands were everywhere. He panted without realizing it. Zora shifted in his sleep, and the soft noise snapped him back to himself. He groaned when he realized he had an erection, and he was grinding it to ground. He heard footsteps and gasped, trapping his length under himself to hide it. It made him uncomfortable, but he would be much more uncomfortable if the blonde's eyes met with it. Naruto was back with firewood, a thick tree divided to 3 pieces. He dropped the wood down, and his power seeped to ground once more. Riolu gasped shakily and his shaft throbbed. There was a circle of stone on ground now, a pit for fire the blonde was about to ignite. The young man hummed to himself. He hovered his hand over the wood and wind chakra sliced the pile to smaller pieces. He heard the jackal gasp again. He put some wood into the pit and sat down next to the Pokemon duo. He flicked a finger to the ready-to-light campfire and a small fireball jumped from his finger. It connected with the wood and flames climbed to the ceiling, chakra fueling it unleashed upon impact. Mere seconds later dried wood was burning normally. He leered at the jackal to see the little Pokemon panting. He knew, from smell, why the Pokemon laying like that but didn't want it to distress him and lied down behind them. He gently caressed Riolu's head, causing the Pokemon to lean into his touch. Thank you master, thank you for taking us in. The blonde flinched. Master was another can of worms. Why did you call me that? He didn't mean it to be harsh. It panicked the Pokemon. I am sorry Master. I will not say it again if you shhh. Naruto pulled the Pokemon closer to his chest with conscious effort to not touch his hardness. He let the Pokemon have his back to him. I'm sorry. You may call me whatever you wish, but my name is Naruto-kun. Naruto. Naruto-san. Naruto-sama. Sensei. Master. Master. The Pokemon called Naruto away from the memory to realize he was hyperventilating. Odd, he didn't even need to breathe anymore, a far part of his mind commented, and he was crushing the Pokemon. He let go like he got burned, then hugged him much more gently. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Sorry, my name is Typhoon. He finished. He continued to caress the Pokemon's soft fur and had a conclusion. This must be heaven. He continued caressing until he did something he didn't for a long while, simply not seeing any reason to do. He slept. He was still a war veteran however and snapped to consciousness when he felt Riolu got up. He opened his eyes a little to see the jackal walk close to the cave entrance and deal with his problem. He closed his eyes again. He could give the Pokemon that much privacy. Sometime later he felt the Pokemon return to his side and pulled him to his chest again. He was in a familiar void, his mindscape. He didn't saw the point to imagine anything to exist hereafter. He slapped himself harshly. Then he realized he have a guest, an equine with a golden wheel on its body and an impressible presence. It was nowhere close to himself, but he had a feeling it was perhaps the strongest Pokemon. He let his eyes sharpen on the Pokemon's eyes before it can even take a breath to talk. He let his mind filled with the vast knowledge the Pokemon has. He was right. It was the strongest Pokemon, the god. Arceus. Interesting. It is usually me doing astral visits on others, not vice versa. He conjured himself a glass of wine, both to test if he was in control of the dream and wanted to taste the drink again. The god blinked. Both at what the blonde said and the fact he used words of Riolu. The Pokemon waited the human to say anything else, but he just drunk a little from the sanguine liquid. The Pokemon shook it off and got back to business. You're no mere human. I felt the power ripples you caused from a different dimension. Who are you? What are you? If the Pokemon were to say it was intimidated a little, it wouldn't be lying, but of course it won't admit it. Not even to itself. The blonde raised a hand and two more Arceus materialized. The Pokemon shot an odd look at the human. The blonde pointed one on left. It was in a submissive pose, front legs kneeling and head bowed down. That will be you if you understand what exactly I am. He pointed to the other one. That one's legs were buckled and its eyes had a faraway look. Like it wasn't itself anymore. And this one is if I let you look into my mind for answers. He waved his hand away, causing the doppelgangers to dissolve into black smoke. Neither is what I want, so I will do neither. Let's just say that I'm a human, but at the same time I am not. A demon, but not. A god, but not. I'm just me. Arceus still tried to read the human's mind, but all it saw was void. Like it was a psychic and the blonde was a dark type. Perhaps one day you will understand, see me in person, and not through invading my dreams. I plan on exploring the world. See the sights I can't see in my world anymore. What is it like, your world? Arceus was interested, but its voice was calm. Typhoon took a slow sip from the glass. A wasteland. Full of dust and rocks. He sighed, yet it was not always so. The Pokemon stiffened and reached the worst conclusion. Is it like that because of you? The Pokemon flinched from the withering death glare. My pet. Pet? Yes. Humans tried to take my power for themselves. They wouldn't be successful, but my pet took offense on my behalf. He sighed and let the glass slip from his hand. In a moment all life had been purged from Earth. Shatter. Arceus stared. It does not matter now. It was past and will not be future. What happened to your pet? It asked calmly. I ripped her apart. Soul and body. Her soul was already long story. Perhaps I will tell you later. His eyes flicked to sky to see dawn was arriving. It's morning already. Riolu woke up to see he was alone with Zoro. Master? He got up and hurried to the cave entrance. Master? His call woke up Zoro. Riolu, what's wrong? Master is gone. Zoro blinked and followed the jackal outside. Master? Master? Mast. Thump. Riolu tripped over a protrusion on ground. It was actually a line on ground. He noticed that when he looked closer. Zoro. He called the fox and they followed it. 5 minutes later they found something wasn't there before. There was a split stream of water from river and it was flowing to a pool. Then the water continued by overflowing the pool back to the river over a track. They could see steam rising from the fork, then it mixed with the old and colder water in the pool. The blonde emerged from water, not even a speck of dirt left on his hair or skin. He raked his fingers between his hair to loosen the knots to straightness. He waited the Pokemon to announce their presence while doing that. Zoro was mesmerized by the blonde's hair after it got cleaned. It was sublime, the way sunlight danced between the long, yellow locks and reflected at him, making a breathtaking sight. Riolu, however, was tracking the hare down and down and down. He flustered and had to consciously raise his eyes up. Then Blonde let his power flow to ground through his feet. He managed to strangle down the gasp back, but his knees buckled. The steam rising from water turned down a little. Would you like to join me or will you continue watching? Blonde asked after he decided they ogled him enough. He heard them yelp behind him and snickered to himself. He looked over his shoulder at them, both flustered at getting caught at staring. He turned towards them, causing them to turn their heads away to not look at you know. The blonde leaned on the pool's edge. You can look now. They hesitantly did so. Well. Riolu was first to step forward. A tiny, shy step, but others followed. Zoro followed less than an arm's length away. All the while the blonde's lit blue eyes watched the Pokémon like a predator. He chuckled. I find it flattering. He leaned more to the jackal. That you find me so distracting. His hot breath danced on the Pokémon's muzzle, his lips was less than an inch away, and his breath faintly smelling ash and cinnamons filled the Pokémon's nose, darkening the fluster to a blush. Meanwhile Zoro was stumped on spot, watching all this with a blush of his own. Their fur only partially covered the redness on their faces. However, the blonde leaned even more, aiming for ears on top of the Pokémon's head. If you are not careful, his breath caressed the quivering appendages as Riolu closed his eyes and took a shaky breath. You may end up dead. He barked as he yanked the unsuspecting Zoro by his long neck fur. Boosh. Pulling him with only a hair's margin away from horn of a heracross. It would be lethal, for its horn was going for the fox neck. The effect was instant. Riolu's survival instincts kicked in as his eyes shot open, and he only took a moment to get a defensive stance in front of the blonde and fox. He grinned a little at the Pokémon's instincts. The bug type turned around after several feet of charging straight. Always be aware of your surroundings and be calm when fighting. If you trip over a root in middle dodging, it will spell doom for you. The blonde advised calmly behind Riolu, making the Pokémon look at him oddly. Never take your eyes off your opponent. The blonde barked again as Riolu's head snapped back to the bug-type Pokémon with a flinch. The bug was getting ready to attack again, but stopped by the jerky motion. It was suspicious and decided to wait for the Riolu to make the first move. The jackal was clearly ordered something, but he didn't hear anything or saw Blonde's lips move. It decided to let the jackal take the initiative. The blonde was calm once more. Read your opponent closely. Observe its moves, body shape, emotions, anything that may hint you to do what you should to win the fight. Your opponent is bigger than you, this means it is stronger, tougher, slower and has less stamina than you. It has a carapace, which makes it even tougher but also slower and makes it spend more stamina for moving. Your best shot is tire it out and finish it when it is exhausted. Riolu nodded, his eyes never left the bug as the blonde said. Zora, help Riolu with ranged support. A direct hit will be dangerous, so distract it with your illusions and long-range attacks, if you know any. Don't stop at one place for long, use your illusions to conceal yourself or your opponent will attack you. Zoro was a little crestfallen for he didn't know any long-range attack, but he still nodded with determination. He still could use Leer to help Riolu from afar while using illusions to stay out of sight. That's all I can say for now. Be careful. Riolu grinned at the last note and dashed with quick attack, Zoro's eyes focused on the bug type, leering to make an opening in the Pokémon's defense for later. Blonde grinned to himself. Looks like I will break my promise. X. Heracross fell down, utterly spent and an accidental headbutt to a tree knocked it out. A little back behind it, Riolu wasn't faring much better. He was on his knees and panting like he ran a dozen of marathons. On the blonde side, Zoro fell down, his knees couldn't carry him anymore. The blonde hummed in approval. Good, you won. The Pokémon was too spent up to respond. He smiled and brought them to the pool with him. He leaned their heads to his chest so they will stay above water while rest of them is submerged in warmth. Riolu sighed in pleasure, the warm water soothing his sore muscles. Zoro hummed, his muscles weren't sore, but the warm water calmed him nonetheless. The blonde started massaging the Pokémon softly and it helped even more. Growl. Hunger showed itself. Riolu got flustered and Zoro giggled. Growl. Typhoon chuckled at their expressions. I believe it's time to find something to eat. He coaxed them away from his chest and got up from the pool, reminding Pokémon he is still naked. They yelped and squeezed their eyes shut. Typhoon materialized his outfit again and a strong gust of hot air dried his hair. Riolu twitched. I'm decent. He took a moment to digest that there are beings he has to be decent for. He bit his lip until it bled to not tear up. It didn't get missed by the Pokémon. Master? Are you alright? Typhoon didn't say anything, just knelt down and hugged them. They looked at each other over the blonde's back but didn't said anything. He let go. Master, is there something wrong? Zoro tried this time. No. Nothing is wrong, Zora. Quite opposite actually, I feel better than I have for a long time. Let's go. He let them lead him to a berry tree they usually eat from. "We are here," Zora announced. Typhoon hummed as he stared at some pink fruits on a tree. "These fruits are pecha berries, right?" "Yep." Riolu responded as he popped one into his mouth. Typhoon hummed again and sat down base of a tree nearby. "Aren't you doing to eat?" Zoro asked when he saw the blonde on ground. "Maybe later. Go ahead, I'll watch around." The fox frowned but did as told. He watched the Pokémon eat for a moment, then his gaze swept the scene. There were several pecha trees with various Pokémon helping themselves. He could smell rich and sweet aroma of the fruit as he closed his eyes and let his other senses keep track of around. He heard rustling of a bush as an avian type of Pokémon arrived. Their eyes met and it glared at him. The blonde got the name Blaziken from pile of knowledge he got from Arceus and Riolu. "A human, perfect," he heard the Pokémon mutter. He frowned a little but stayed silent. He guessed from Pokémon's deep tone. It was a male. His eyes caught Riolu coming towards him and he wiped the frown from his face. "Master?" He presented a berry to him. "Would like to try one?" He asked innocently and Typhoon couldn't find it in himself to say he doesn't eat. He reached over to take the fruit but Zoro sneaked behind the jackal and licked one of Riolu's aura sensors, causing him to gasp and accidentally crush the berry in his paw from sensation. Typhoon flinched as its juices splashed to his face and hand. Zoro burst out laughing. He saw the avian Pokémon crack a smirk as he saw the blonde's face. "Sorry Zora, but I don't intend to let you have the last laugh," Typhoon thought as he smirked. He grabbed Riolu's juicy arm before the Pokémon tackled the mischievous fox. They both feared they overdone it and might be in trouble. Avian got ready to intervene if the blonde decided to punish the Pokémon duo. I'm sorry Ma Master PL." The blonde's eyes took a predatory glint and the Pokémon froze as a long and forked tongue came out of the blonde's mouth. It wiped his face then his fingers clean of juice and brought it to his mouth. He proceeded to lick off the juice from Riolu's arm next. He licked it clean and continued with his body. He flicked it over the Pokémon's face for a few drops here and there and carried the juice back to his mouth again. He lastly took the crushed berry from the Pokémon's paw with his tongue and chewed it several times and swallowed. The blonde's actions making both Pokémon blush and eyes beet red. Again, fur only partially covered it. He grinned at them. "Thank you Riolu. You are very sweet," he commented as his grin turned to smug at the avian's flustered face. His sapphire orbs rested on the Pokémon's lighter blue ones as the Pokémon flustered a little more, making the blonde's grin wider. He growled and jumped to wipe that smug grin off the human's face. Typhoon laughed as he ducked under the flying kick. "Back away and don't interfere. I will deal with this." The duo was happy with the order for the avian Pokémon was much more than they could handle. Typhoon flowed around the avian Pokémon strafe with unnatural grace. He was outside of the entropy circle, so it wasn't a wonder he was in pristine condition after eons. It angered the Pokémon even more, also sparked a different emotion, but Blaziken refused to acknowledge it. They danced around for several more minutes. The blonde started to hum to their rhythm at some point, much to the Pokémon's unending annoyance, until the avian couldn't take it anymore. "Stay still damn it." The blonde did as the avian told and a kick crashed on his face. The avian grinned and other two Pokémon gasped. Then the avian frowned and withdrew his leg down to see the blonde was in pristine condition. At least he wasn't grinning now. "You're kind of slow and kind of weak," the blonde commented with a frown. The avian growled and threw a punch this time, but the blonde grabbed the fist. "Still, I guess it is good for a Pokémon. How about toughness?" He landed a light kick to the avian's chest. The Pokémon's feet left ground and crashed to a tree, almost breaking it in two. He slid down from the tree and gripped his chest in pain. Typhoon walked close to the Pokémon, who tried to get back on his feet to continue fighting. He groaned and stood down after several tries and just stared at the blonde's eyes with defiance. Typhoon knelt down to get eye level with the sitting Pokémon. "You still wish to battle?" The avian shook his head, hoping the blonde wouldn't continue anyway. The blonde grabbed the Pokémon's arms and pulled them away from his chest with one hand. It made the avian groan again, but he didn't do anything to stop the blonde. Typhoon gently checked the Pokémon's chest for any broken ribs with his other hand and he was happy to found none. He let the Pokémon go. "No broken ribs. Again, kind of frail but good for a Pokémon I suppose," he commented again. The Pokémon would snort if he didn't know the action would hurt him. So, he just stayed silent. "Eyes." Typhoon shouted to the duo watching them. They snapped to attention with the call. "Do you know anything to soothe pain around here?" They looked to each other. "There are orange berries, but why don't we just leave him alone?" Zoro asked. Typhoon shrugged. "He is like this because of me. I was supposed to lighten my kick more, but I guess I was a little too excited. You didn't have any problems with leaving that Scrafty alone after you knocked him out. But Blaziken wasn't hunting you. And I spot genuine worry when he grinned at Riolu pinned Riolu to enjoy his treat. You all thought I was going to hit him or something. All Pokemon flustered a little, even Blaziken. Now the avian Pokemon grunted a little as he found himself sitting on the blonde's shoulders. He was red from embarrassment, well, redder. Let's get some of those berries. Oranberry is a dark blue and circular fruit. Typhoon gently placed the avian on his shoulders down to a tree close by and foraged a small pile of them. Here he placed a pile on the avian's lap and watched him eat. He winced for first few berries, then downed the rest normally. You understand our tongue and even talk? The Blaziken asked the question on his mind after they fought but couldn't ask because of pain. The blonde explained semantics. I see, you are not an ordinary human. What are you then? Typhoon shrugged. I am me, that's all you need to know and would like to know. Blaziken frowned but decided not to pursue it further. There was an awkward silence for a few beats. Well, I guess you are good to go now. Yes I am. Thanks. Let's go boys. He pocketed a berry and turned to leave. Wait. Typhoon looked over his shoulder to the avian Pokemon. Blaziken couldn't believe himself for what he is about to ask. Iowa, what are you planning to do? He asked, no longer able to keep eye contact and a pink hue of embarrassment dusting his cheeks. The blonde hummed. I want to explore the world, get to know that he wanted to smack himself for his near slip-up. It would raise too many uncomfortable questions up and may lead to them learning exactly what he is. And they may end up doing something he hate, look at him in a perspective he doesn't want to be looked at. Pokemon in the world. Perhaps settle down and watch over young ones running around with their life. You sounded like an old man right now. Zora piped in, Blaziken cracked a grin, and Riolu slapped the fox head. Typhoon chuckled at the irony. Oh my youthful pride, he smiled. Perhaps help where I can. Help? The avian asked. Typhoon shrugged. Time will show you are free to tag along. He answered the question avian couldn't ask. His eyes lit up and he braced himself the same way Riolu did yesterday. He just waited the avian with a grin. Huh? I don't use capture stones. He turned to Riolu uncertainly and got a nod. Yeah, I don't use them. Humans call them pokeballs. Blaziken enlightened him. Typhoon hummed. Perhaps I should visit a human settlement first. There is a lot of thing I can learn from a human. How did you know about pokeballs anyway? I was with a trainer once. But managed to escape from him. He was kind of bad. He didn't really treat us bad, but he didn't saw us as friends either. He saw us away for fame and cash instead. You hate humans now? Not hate but certainly dislike. Professor was a kind guy so I know not all humans are bad. Fair point, humans vary a lot. Let's go then, lead the way. The avian and blonde walked on the front while the other two decided to follow from behind. You have a crush on Master Zora observed. Riolu tripped on his own feet. Yes I do. But I know I'm not the only one. He elbowed the fox. He blushed. They also see the avian Pokemon chatting with the blonde and laugh with a faint pink dust on his cheeks. They all seem to be smitten with the blonde. Maybe a short silence. You don't have to thank me for what I did. Huh? Lick on your sensor. For a moment, I thought you were gonna pop a boner and die from Riolu tackled him. The leading duo heard growling and checked back to see other two was wrestling on ground. Typhoon chuckled. Shall I set them straight? The avian asked. He was still a Pokemon trained with Disciple, it was kind of a reflex at this point. Nah, let them do what they want. The day is young and I know why they are doing this. The avian blinked at him. Why? Payback. For the prank earlier. The avian averted his gaze. Not even an hour and I can tell he is much better than him. The avian thought as he watched the Pokemon rolling around. Also, I am not as obvious as you may think. I am well aware of their crushes and your blooming one. Let's see who will confess first. He snickered a little and his eyes returned to the wrestling Pokemon. Their rivalry is going to be so fun. Oh, hello there. I believe you came for a. You seem to have a group of Pokemon already. How can I help you? Professor Sycamore started cheerfully and finished calmly. Blue slit eyes met green human eyes and Professor stiffened a little from the sight. Typhoon cut the contact with a close-eyed grin and talked with his mouth for the first time since his arrival to the dimension. I would like to get a Pokédex and start my journey as a trainer. Rich. Soft. Honey like Blaziken, Riolu and Zora thought respectively. Zora shivered a little. The professor swallowed as their eyes met again, blue gaze mesmerizing the older man. The blonde chuckled as the professor took a little more time than he should to respond. The sound snapped him back. Oh of course. I must have one left. This way. He led them to the garden behind the lab. The blonde let his gaze rake the lab and fell to the garden behind, eyes fell on another fox-like Pokemon, a fire type this time Fennekin. I have a lot of soft spots in this world he thought. The professor handed him a red device. Sight of the device triggered knowledge he got from Sycamore as he took it with a thanks. There you go. I also give new trainers a starter Pokémon. You already have 3 Pokémon, but would you still like to have one? Typhoon thought a little. Can I see them? He asked politely. The professor got used to blonde a little by now, his face spotted an easy grin. Sure, this way. They got out to the garden. A black Pokémon ran to them, shouting some excited words on the way. It jumped on the professor, being mindful to not crush the man. Morning, master. The dragon Garchomp greeted Sycamore. Typhoon watched a little back, a grin on his face. A trio of Pokémon joined, Fennekin he saw before, a Froakie and a Cheespin. These are Fennekin. Hi. Froakie. Hello. And Cheespin. Hey there. Choose one of them. There was nothing to choose from, the blonde was already sold. Fennekin. The Pokémon's face lit up at its name. Others were a little disappointed at not being chosen, but they shook it up quickly. I guess this is it for us guys. The Pokémon said sadly after reality slammed home and it realized what that meant, a goodbye. I'll miss you. Fennekin Froakie called. It hugged the fox when the Pokémon turned to him. Cheespin watched a moment the two joined the hug. Froakie had tears in its eyes. We will miss you too. Cheespin said, but it managed to hold back its tears. Actually Typhoon decided to try his luck. All eyes were on him. Can I take all of them? Professor sighed. That is against rules. The reply was stern. It isn't about having extra firepower if that is what you are talking about, I prefer if I don't ruin their friendship. I know I can take none of them, but one of them at least, all of them at most will go eventually, and they will be separated. Do this for them, please. The Pokémon was staring at the professor hopefully. He was cracking, but one last push needed for him to give in. He had something in mind but. Will I risk it for a Pokémon? He asked to himself. He took one look at the wide eyes of the fox, and his eyes dilated a little. The answer was yes. Please professor. His voice was velvet, his eyes were captivating, a soft breeze passed around his perfect long blonde hair and they reflected the sunlight like there was diamonds in it, his tattered outfit gave him an animalistic charm. He was absolutely breathtaking. Sycamore realized his lungs was burning as he realized he wasn't breathing for a long time. Other Pokémon wasn't faring much better not that he can see them. His eyes decided the blonde was the most important sight in the universe and weren't listening to him anymore. Garchomp and Blaziken knew he was using some form of charm, but it was a far, far away fact for both of them right now. Other Pokémon instinctively knew there was something wrong, especially Riolu and Zora. Former for his sensitivity to the blonde's powers and latter for his illusionary attunement. Last 3 was vulnerable, but not more than the professor. They all were in the blonde's hands now. Be very well. It is, as you said, for them. Thank you, Professor, you have a heart of gold. He let the illusion go, letting the man and Pokémon take an easy breath. Garchomp growled at him, angry at the blonde for deceiving her master. His Pokémon instinctively arose to fight. No guys. No matter what the reason, I shouldn't do it. I deserve it. But master. Riolu, I manipulated him. I knew it was wrong and I knew I shouldn't have done that. I did it anyway, even if it was for Fennekin. No. Master, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't harm him and you didn't do it for a selfish reason. I refuse to watch you get hurt without a good reason. He was touched by the avian Pokémon's words and their strong desire to protect him. You defended us when we met from that Scrafty, you didn't even know why he was chazzing us. So, let us return the favor. Zora shared his peace. Why he was chazzing you? It aroused the blonde's curiosity and momentarily dissolved the tense atmosphere. Riolu glared at Zora, who chuckled sheepishly. I may have make him face plant on a pile of mud. Riolu smacked his paw on the fox's head. Ow. You were laughing too. The fox indignantly shouted. Typhoon shook his head with a grin. Then he refocused on the dragon-type Pokémon. She was looking at him oddly. He felt a little awkward under her gaze. You can understand them. How about me? Can you understand me? Yes, I can understand you. Is it not normal? He asked. He gained wide-eyed stares from Garchomp and the professor. I have never met anyone with ability to hold a conversation with a Pokémon, at least accurately. The blonde blinked. Really? Yes, also whatever you just did isn't something a human can do, is it? Who and what are you, if you don't mind me asking? My name is Typhoon and I am me, not a human but something else. I can only say that much. If he was disappointed, Sycamore didn't show it. Can I still have them? He asked once more. He got an affirmative from the man, but he still didn't want it to be a manipulated one. I said yes once. I shouldn't change my mind, even if it's with your help. The blonde rubbed his head bashfully. The war veteran to the Eons must have softened me more than I think. He thought to himself. The professor handed him 3 Pokeballs. These are their Pokeballs. The blonde hummed. Let's go guys, I am sure you want to explore the world as much as I do. They spared one last look to the place they born and knew for a while, then they nodded with smiles. Wait. Garchomp stopped them. Before you go, can you tell Master I love him? Typhoon chuckled and rubbed her head. I am sure he is sure of that, but alright. Garchomp says she loves you. The professor chuckled. Garchomp nuzzled him in thanks. Then she took in his scent. Soon the dragon's nose was poking his everywhere, causing the blonde to chuckle and his first 3 Pokémon to glare at her incredulously. The blonde's chuckle turned to laughter when he saw their faces. When she started to move to his crotch, he had to push her away. I believe I can say that there is no hard feeling between us anymore. He said with laughter. She flushed and nodded. Soon Professor and Garchomp was out of sight. Typhoon stopped on the way out of the city. He took out the new trio's Pokeballs and released them. They were stunned. Master? Why? Fennekin had misty eyes when he said that. I am not abandoning you, just the idea of store Pokémon in Pokeballs until you need them is clashing with my beliefs. I very much prefer if you choose to follow me, not because of a ball forcing you. He explained himself. It calmed them down and smiled at him. We will follow you of course. After what you did for us we would be willing even if we had to be captured in a Pokeball. Others nodded to show they were thinking same. He grinned back then paused after a few steps. You continue, I just remembered I forgot something. He went back to the lab, his Pokémon decided to wait for him instead. He was back before long. You could send one of us back, Master. Blaziken reminded casually. It's alright. I just wanted to thank Professor one last time. In the lab, Professor stared with wide eyes at the fist-sized diamond in his hands with disbelief. A little something to underline your heart of gold, even if it is unworthy of you. The words said by the blonde, repeating in his mind. They were outside of the city. Typhoon let them fight with any Pokémon they saw in the wild while he battled with Blaziken. Battle was a strong word for he was dancing around Blaziken's attacks. He also slapped him lightly when he spotted any openings in his defense. If grunts were any indication, he was hurting him a little. However, was it his pride or body getting hurt he didn't know. He grunted as a slap landed on his chest. He was going to have bruises from those slaps, not really damaging, but frustrating him to no end. He decided to have some conversation while getting beaten so to speak. So you charmed us. The avian reminded nonchalantly. He then grunted as another slap landed on his chest. The blonde snorted in amusement. Yes, shocking isn't it? He ducked under a high kick and slapped the avian's thigh when he decided he pulled back too slowly. The avian grunted again. Well, aren't you weirded out? He asked as he threw a punch. The blonde leaned a little to right instinctively, but he was too confused to counter. Why should I? He jumped over a sweep kick. We are same gender. All of us. I thought same-sex relationships bugged humans. Ah. It all made sense now. Where I come from he blocked coming high kick this time and grabbed the leg. Do you think others are curious about it too? He received a shrug. He saw them all watching their fight. He sent them a dry look but didn't do anything else. Master, where did you learn how to fight like that? Froakie asked. Typhoon hummed, what he had in mind covered it too. He waved his hand to beckon them closer. They obeyed. In my homeland it was close and far enough. Our countries were at a constant fight with each other. We had a special power and because of that special power, our fights were much more deadly than yours. So much that if I were to say we didn't have any guarantee of survival for the next second, it would be too far from being literal. For this reason, we took any pleasure for granted which more often than not included sex. Same-sex relationships were common, for we grew to not be picky, and relationships as a whole were short-lived because of low average of lifespan. His eyes swept over the Pokémon to gauge their reactions. They were mostly horrified, he spotted fragments of pity, and was that hope? Zora caught a detail. You use past tense, what happened? He internally applauded the Darfox perception. I am the lone survivor of my homeland as far as I know. They saw that coming, not surprising with the chaotic life they had. Still, guessing and actually hearing it was two different things. What I did back at the lab was a trick I can do. I use illusions to enhance my natural charm to enrapture others. It is a dirty trick, but it is one of the good things I can do. As for bad ones. Naruto was facing a village that destroyed his ancestral clan. He decided to leave the Iwakiri Kumo trio alone, but he drew the line when Iwa took it too far and he sent a platoon of Anbu to brainwash him to join them. He shrugged, they got it on themselves. Time to remind them why he was someone not to be angered. His rippled purple eyes glowed with power. Tengai Shinsei, shattered heavens. Mere seconds later the once great village was buried under a meteor. He watched the dust and air with cold eyes for a moment, then he left without a second glance. Anyway, let's continue, but please do your own fighting instead of watching our fight this time. Master? Riolu stopped him. Yes, Riolu? Master, I want to say something to you. He took a deep breath and let it out. Typhoon understood what he was going to say, but still let the Pokemon to say it. Master he stopped with a blush. He couldn't continue. The Pokemon tried again as Typhoon fell to one knee in front of the jackal, who couldn't look at the blonde's face. He rubbed the Pokemon's head softly. Don't force yourself if you are not ready to say what you want to say, Riolu. I will be here to hear it when you are ready. The Pokemon hesitated a moment, then hugged the blonde. He felt the blonde's arms coil around him, rubbing his back. Zoro was wrong, he didn't crush on their master. He loved him. Master, I love you. He said it in his mind as a blinding light covered him, he felt himself getting taller and stronger. I think you are poking me. Typhoon thought he should have put it to words differently as Riolu, now Lucario, jumped away from him with a startled yelp. Congratulations Riolu, you are Lucario now. The blonde exclaimed with a grin. He calmed down after he checked himself to see he was poking him with his new spike, and not with his spike. If it was latter, he may have pled Arceus to make ground swallow him. He checked his body fully after realizing the incident was innocent. I am a Lucario. He said with an excited smile and gasped at his deeper voice. Typhoon snickered at the Aura Pokemon's wonder-filled voice. That's right. Also, now you can train with Blaziken, I am sure he will appreciate less bruises. Hey. I am perfectly fine. Oh really? Then there should be no problems if I do this. He poked the avian's chest a little roughly, on a place he slapped several times, causing him to moan a little in pain. He looked away with a huff. Typhoon was apologetic for a moment, then he had an idea. He wasn't sure of its success, but there was no reason not to try. Blaziken, can you lie down for a moment? I want to try something. The avian did as told and watched the blonde with a curious gaze. The blonde's hand started to glow soft green as Lucario's knees buckled. He was much more sensitive to the blonde's energy now that he evolved. It was both a blessing and a curse for him right now. The blonde put his hands on the avian's chest. The Pokemon grimaced a little, then the pain was numbed. Does it feel better? He tested it on a little surface, the mystical palm. Yes, the avian was shocked to learn this ability of the blonde. He figured it was all about fighting and killing, not healing and repairing. It was a pleasant surprise. The blonde grinned at that and resumed with more confidence. Chest, abdomen, arms, legs. The avian had to bite his tongue to not moan for an entirely different reason, as the blonde's touch sent all these pleasant sparks through his body. The blonde's hands withdrew after they passed over every part of his once aching body. How are you, Faye? He didn't know what urged him to do it, but he did it anyway. His lips were pressing on the blonde's. They were mismatched, but it didn't prevent the sparks flying. He felt guilty as soon as he withdrew though, the pleasure of it didn't let him feel remorse, no matter how much he wanted to right now, and he was expecting the punch on his face, but not who it came from, Lucario. He had tears in his eyes and was baring his teeth at him, a perfect view of sorrowful anger. He didn't attack him anymore, instead he ran to the forest. Lucario. The blonde called after him and got up. He hesitated for a moment and sent him a sad look. Then he ran after Lucario. If only the blonde punched him instead of sending him that look. Then guilt wouldn't be gnawing on him. What have you done? Zoro yelled at him. The fox cut him off. I hope you are happy. He ran after them, leaving him with 3 bewildered Pokemon. I am sorry. He finished the sentence in his head. Lucario. Lucario. He heard his master call at him, but he was angry, too angry and sad. He wiped tears from his eyes, the reason he didn't saw what was in front of him as he slammed into a Houndoom. She growled at him and flames swirled in her mouth. He got up from ground and leapt away, but he wasn't fast enough, the flames missed his vitals, but not his legs. He cried as his new vulnerability made it especially effective. He fell down and moaned as his own weight made the landing agonizing. He needed a roast berry, his mind supplied of course if he managed to survive, his more pessimistic part added. He crossed his arms over his body as the fire and dark type Pokemon shot another round of flames at him. He closed his eyes and awaited the pain, but none came. He opened his eyes to see there was a stone wall in front of him, between him and the hound. Then the wall crumbled down. At last. He heard his master order calmly, but with overwhelming power and dominance, he was far from his usual easygoing self. The hound growled lowly but slowly backed away and out of sight. Typhoon reburied Uzumaki Naruto, the god of death in him and sighed in relief. He was on Lucario's side in a blink and checking on his burnt legs. He pressed his once again glowing hands on the Pokemon's legs. Lucario hissed a little in pain, then it gone numb. He continued to cry in silence, fat drops of tears slid down his cheeks as the blonde healed his legs. He lunged at the blonde when he was done remembering the spike at the last moment and shifted a little to not pierce him with it and hugged him desperately, trying to wash away the frustration and sadness he was feeling through the embrace. He started sobbing quietly as the blonde rubbed soothing circles on his back. Master? Lucario? Master Zora caught up to them. Can you leave us alone a bit, Zora? His voice was soft and gentle, the tone he used on the Houndoom was a thing in past. As sure the Pokemon was out of sight. "Lucario, are you Al?" He couldn't stop himself anymore. The kiss was different from the one Avian stole from him. Both were with mismatched lips and inexperienced, but it wasn't shy, hopeful and guilty in the end. It was sad, desperate, angry and was full of desire to please. Their kiss continued as the Pokemon worked. His body shivering, soft paws massaging as he begged for a response without words, a sign to show he was pleasing him. The blonde sighed from his nose as he gave in, he pulled the Pokemon closer and started to respond. Typhoon hummed a little as Lucario changed their places and pressed him on ground, pinning him with his smaller body. He let the Pokemon do whatever he wishes with him, soft paws rubbing his chest and his own hands rubbing his back. His hands continued to roam down and down, then he caught himself. Not until he is ready and he wishes he let his hands return to safer area. Few minutes later the Pokemon was panting on him, his lungs burning from lack of oxygen. The Pokemon lied sideways to not punch a hole on his chest with the spike. "Are you alright?" He tried again, without interruption this time. The Pokemon took a few more moments to rewind, then he responded. "I am angry. Very angry at Blaziken but you can't blame him for having the same feelings you have for me." He felt more than saw the Pokemon nod. He hummed. "I can't really tell you what you should about this, but I suggest you to think about sharing." The Pokemon was equally indignant, embarrassed and shocked. "What? But. Look at this way. You have feelings towards me, Blaziken has, and I suspect Zora has too. Am I right, Zora?" The dark Pokemon came out of the bushes he was hiding in. His face was pink from being caught eavesdropping and walked closer slowly. He nodded without looking at him, his eyes were glued to ground. "And there is only one me. It is either you fight for my affection or you share me. The other trio is a wild card, so in the end you may have to fight a combination of them too if you choose the first option." When put it like that, he has a point. Lucario thought grumpily. "I will leave the choice to you." He paused a bit to let the aura Pokemon digest his words. "Are you ready to go? Can we stay like that a little more?" The blonde grinned softly. "Alright. Excellent. Congratulations on evolving, Blaziken." A week had passed since the blonde took the trio under his wing. The blonde forgave Blaziken, not that he was angry at him. He even apologized for leaving him to go after Lucario. Suffice to say the avian was back on track. First to evolve was Frigadier, the next one was Quilladin, and now the Blaziken. Lucario huffed, the blonde was right unfortunately. 6 Pokemon, vying for 1 human. The stress alone forced Zoroark to evolve. To keep up with the others. They all tried not to be too obvious in their jealous gazes at the Fire Fox as the blonde caressed his head. He hugged the blonde's waist for it was the highest he can reach and sent the other 5 a smug look. Not too obvious. Not too obvious. Not too. He huffed again and looked elsewhere before he started a 6-way brawl again. The urge to kick him away from the blonde and hug him while shouting mine was getting too intense. But they in a non-violent discussion decided not to make their rivalry too obvious to the blonde. No need to risk making him sad. He loved all of them. The blonde tapped Fire Fox's head to sign he wanted to go. Small favors. Let's get going. The blonde decided to act before other 5 teamed on Blaziken, though perhaps it would be fun to watch 5 Pokemon chasing one. He chuckled. He was well aware of their rivalry over his affection. And he himself would admit he had too much pleasure from watching them trip over themselves to make sure he is oblivious to it while trying to get some treats from him. Treats he had no problem in giving away generously. Still, he wanted to get to the seaside. Soft winds, smell of sea, sounds of waves washing the shore. It was something he missed a lot. They pressed on, passing through Forest of the Houndoom incident. Lucario instinctively moved closer to the blonde, eyes scanning around with extra care. Typhoon noticed the Pokemon's unease and put his hand on Lucario's shoulder. Lucario grinned at the blonde and put his paw on his hand. They reached the coast, the first thing the blonde do was take a deep breath to absorb sea air, his eyes closed to let the scent take him away. His soft strands flew around with wind. He checked behind him to see 2 of his Pokemon was frowning and looking a little uncomfortable. Blaziken and Blaziken. "Eyes, is there something wrong?" "No, just. See your big bodies of water makes fire types uncomfortable." Blaziken finished Blaziken's explanation. The avian nodded with a sigh. The blonde let out a sad "oh." "Then maybe it is best if we go." It's not so bad, we will survive a few minutes," Blaziken said with a weak smile, borderline grimace. He did grimace when a drop of water landed on his face. "Yes, even if it's water." Blaziken used his powers to make his fur hotter, steam arose from him. He smiled in satisfaction for a few seconds, then he frowned again. He grimaced when a drop landed on his head. The avian shivered. Typhoon hummed. "Is it cold or texture of it?" "Cold I suppose," Blaziken replied. "Both." Breaks shared his peace. "You are right, ice isn't that much of a problem," Typhoon hummed. "Both, eh?" he muttered. Lucario took in a sharp breath and let it out slowly. The blonde's hair got much longer and levitated higher. Then they could see steam rising from long strands. "Dead in my hair but try not to yank," he instructed. The fire types shared a look for a moment then did as told. It was closest thing to heaven for a fire type. Warmth. All-embracing warmth. It was like having flash fire and leaping inside fire, a skill neither of them have. As a big bonus it also had the blonde scent. Wood ash and cinnamon. "Is it better?" "You can't imagine." The fox took a deep whiff. "Thank you very much, master." Others wanted to get in too, but heat proved to be too much. The blonde sat down and beckoned them closer with his hands. To his left sat Lucario and Quilladin next to him. Right, Zoroark and Fergardier. He leaned on the dark fox and pulled the jackal as a side effect. The fox rested his head on his when he noticed the blonde's hair isn't burning him. Then he frowned. He checked the blonde out. Blonde hair. Blue eyes with slits for pupils. Sun-kissed skin. Torn clothes. He shrugged at the last one. Then looked over his shoulder to the intoxicated fire types. Then down to the blonde strands. He touched the hair, then whipped his paw back and blew on the burn. He grabbed a fistful of grass and threw them on it. They first browned then combusted in seconds. Strange powers. The blonde took his paw and let a little green light cover his hand. Seconds later it wasn't stinging. His naturally sharp eyes softened a bit. Compassion. Their eyes met and the blonde eye smiled at him. He blushed faintly. Charm. What wasn't there to love? He sighed and his gaze flickered over other Pokémon. Companions and friends. Opponents and peers. One prize. He sighed and glared at nothing. I got lost again. Master. His voice was much deeper than it was when he was a Zora. I got lost in thoughts. I do it sometimes, no matter how much I hate it. He elaborated. The fox turned at him fully. What were you thinking? The blonde laughed. Let's not get into that, you would be traumatized, he said so cheerfully, like talking about his favorite food. Sometimes he forgot he came from such a different and hostile place. He thought anyone coming from such a place would be cold-blooded killer, but his master went out of his way to heal, even not mention worthy damages on them and wild Pokémon. He noticed the blonde's softer gaze on him and other Pokémon's attention. And I very much prefer if I don't corrupt my cute companions with my past, he muttered it, but it got echoed in his head, perhaps everyone's head. The important part is. Sometimes the thoughts will do more harm than good. Sometimes they will drag you back, sometimes they will stall you and you miss opportunities, sometimes you will shy away from things you want to do because of your doubts. He sighed. Sometimes it is best to act without thinking. He was starting to get used to it. Was he charming them? He didn't think so, but there was little else to explain his attractiveness. It was like he was reading his thoughts, knowing what to say, so that his words batter away his common sense. How to look so he is hot under his dark fur. What to do so he has this swarm of butterflies fly chaotically in his guts. How to beat bullies and save them from death or getting maimed. How to be so damn attractive, driving them to himself like bees to honey, at the same time able to be so terrifying that he could just order their foes with words alone and actually make them obey. How could he manage to resist for so long? And why? He poured all his emotions into the kiss. His hesitation, his fascination, his gratefulness, his love and acceptance of any response. The blonde didn't disappoint. He pulled the fox closer, raking his fingers on the Pokémon's long mane. He closed his eyes and for a moment he imagined his hands were not caressing a long and red highlighted ebony mane, but fiery orange one. 9 long and bushy tails swishing a little far, about to envelope him in a soft and warm embrace. He silently sobbed once, it was barely noticed by the fox, then he deepened the kiss even more, letting the dam on his emotions weaken a bit. Happiness, longing and excitement washed through, his passion overwhelming the fox for a moment, then a pair of all too wrong paws circled his waist. He let his eyes open with a shine of disappointment. It lasted just one moment. Sometimes your thoughts will do more harm than good. His own advice echoed in his head as he started responding anew. No longer he was imagining with his eyes closed. He was sticking to the reality, his fox was with the summons, in a different dimension tree and most importantly, safe. His eyes still had that far stare of longing. He still missed him very much. Zoroark noticed them and withdrew. He panted a bit to rewind. Master, I am sorry if I this time Typhoon cut him. It wouldn't be fair if he looked for his Kyuubi in them, not to them or him. He should let Sycamore go. He let his passion rekindle as he pulled the dark fox close again. They made out until he felt the fox reached his limit and had to take a breath. Please don't finish that sentence, Zoroark. I dislike it when any of you think what you do, what you are, isn't enough. His sternness snapping his Pokémon away from their glaring at the dark fox to him. Master? Quilladin asked. He figured their confusion was blonde's side and his hair returned to normal, causing the good distraction for his fire types give its place to bad one. He got up and let the vastness of the sea calm a bit. You just reminded me of. He paused. Was he going to tell them? Would that turn to the topic of what he is? Would it give a hint about it? Was he going to risk it? It's alright, master. As you once said, you can say it when you are ready to say it. Lucario decided to share his thoughts after Typhoon hesitated for a few moments. And if you prefer not to say, we will understand even if we would be sad you decide so. For Guardier finished. Typhoon sighed shakily. Tell them and risk changing their perspective on him. Or not and make them sad also probably make them think he doesn't trust them. He was already placed quite high in their eyes. Perhaps it wouldn't hurt to share another piece of his past with them he hoped. He sneaked a peek at them to see they stared down to ground in sadness after he was silent for some time. It was the last bit to tip the scale. The leap of faith it seemed. He took in a shaky breath. I used to have someone I loved more than anything. Another peek, they were focusing on him again. His throat was full of knots he turned back to see. We did not like each other very much at start but we were kind of bound together so in time we warmed to each other. A bottle of sake and a hookah set wouldn't be bad right now. At first, he was like my parent. Both my mother and father died when I was a baby so I grew to see him as one. As I grew up, he turned from my parent to my best friend and to my lover. He closed his eyes and suppressed the emotions bubbling up. He was with me nearly all the way the longing in his voice could be tangible. Then I had to send him and others to another dimension. Then he died. He was killed. He sagged. He felt arms around him, Zoroark was embracing him. Then Lucario did the same and they all was around him before long. Quilladin was the last one trying to embrace him. Keyword. Trying. He overbalanced them all and they started to fall down to the sea, rocky sea Bello. He heard a gasp from Bello and those with him. Aya. Crumble. Ooh off. Irk. Typhoon made a platform to cut their fall, but he was crushed under their weight. He groaned. I don't think a human would be three-dimensional anymore he rasped. He changed the stone under him to mud and slid down through it. His eyes caught an orange otter-like Pokemon, a Buziel as fell down and balanced on a rock jutting out of the water. He dug his fingers to the cliff by his side. The platform slowly elevated up. He heard sniffing behind him. He checked to see it was the Buziel. He decided not to say anything and let the platform rise. I am sorry. Her high-pitched voice indicated it was a she. For what? She looked at him oddly, not that he can see. I heard your story and also for eavesdropping. It's alright. I got over it long time ago. Some scars are left, of course, but I guess it is only natural. They were silent for a bit. I never seen a human understanding our talk. Or do that. He shrugged. He let the platform stay atop and withdrew his hands from stone. Master, would it be stupid if I ask are you alright? Typhoon chuckled at the avian's question. I don't know, why don't you try it? He got a snicker as a response. Are you alright, master? It was a little stupid, I admit. He chuckled again. Ha, hear that. Master said you are stupid. He heard Quilladin twist his words then a smack and an oof he guessed the avian rewarded the mammal for his troubles. He grinned with a shake of head, they were a lively bunch alright. Right, I have to go. Before they start that six-way fist fighting again he turned to the bewildered orange Pokemon. See you, maybe. He started to walk vertically up to the edge of cliff. The otter was shocked naturally. She found her voice however. Please wait. He got up with the otter in his arms to see Quilladin rubbing his head with a grin and Blaziken frowning angrily at him. They all shook it off when they saw him with the orange Pokemon. The blonde put her down and walked to Duo. I guess I kind of called you stupid, the blonde remarked sheepishly. He ignored the joyful ha. Quilladin let out. Blaziken laughed nervously and smacked the mammal without looking away from the blonde. It's Al he pecked the avian on lips. He still felt bad for leaving the avian for Lucario that day, but no opportunities showed itself until now. He didn't want to look like he was having favorites and he doesn't have one. Even if he had a soft spot for foxes. I am sorry for calling you that. He said it against the avian's mouth. Buziel blushed at what she was seeing and others first glared at Blaziken then at Quilladin for being the catalyst. Let's go guys and girl, I am sure Blaziken and Braixen would be happier if we get going. He pretended not to hear the profanity Quilladin muttered as he get into the forest with a grin. Do you think she may have a chance against me? Typhoon opened his eyes to stare at the Pokemon god invading his dream again while half lying against an imaginary tree. He knew the Pokemon is going to visit him again. He closed his eyes. He even reimagined his mindscape for this. Perhaps more than once, most likely more than once. He wouldn't stand a chance against her. The Pokemon let the blonde's voice wash over him before thinking about the meaning behind the sentence. You are using your own voice now. Yes, I learned human talk. I didn't know last time. There was a silence for a few beats. How are you so sure? I am a god. Typhoon hummed. The blonde stared at Moon suddenly appeared in silence. He let the silver light shine on his skin for a moment. Do you think you have a chance against Moon? He thought. Then there was someone else with him. She had white hair and several branches were jutting out of her hair. She had bark-like scales on her skin, thin and white on her face, thick and brown on her body. Her eyes were slit and emerald-colored. She was gazing at the alpha Pokemon who gazed back. This was the body I constructed for her. Her original one was too big for any kind of casualty. The god stared a moment more. What was it like, her original body? Big. Very much so. How big? Can you? Do you want to be the first future I shown to you before? The submissive one. The Pokemon stiffened. No. Then let it go. It is past and I prefer if it stays past. The blonde said with finality. He felt something from outside, something touching his mind gently. Perhaps a curious psychic type. I think I have another guest this night. He let the Pokemon reach his mindscape, he barred it from his memories so it wouldn't hurt to let the Pokemon explore a little. Would you prefer if I go? It is up to you. I feel a high presence from my guest, it is probably a legendary. Yes, probably a legendary. The alpha blinked and decided to stay. A couple minutes later they saw a pink bipedal feline-like Pokemon walk closer, its pinkish eyes scanning the forest with guarded curiosity. It spotted them and walked closer. His eyes first passed over the blonde with distaste, then landed on the alpha Pokemon. Arceus, he exclaimed. So, you are the strong presence I felt. He completely ignored the blonde after his eyes left him. The blonde's eye twitched once, but decided to see where this will lead. The alpha sent a glance at him and received a shrug. The pink legendary caught the silent back and forth. Who is this human? He spat the last word with venom. The blonde hummed. The pink Pokemon glared at him. Arceus decided to watch silently. My name is Typhoon and you're like Blaziken. I guess you two have a bad past with humans. Legendary's wide eyes snapped to the blonde, he wasn't expecting the human to know their language. Then their eyes met, his eyes were not of a human. The blonde got in his head and got out before he can stop him. He barely felt it. The human hummed. You are created artificially by them. Countless tests, painful experiments, innumerable fights against innocent Pokemon, betrayal. You had it worse than Blaziken and have a good reason to hate humans. The pink legendary glared at him darkly. Arceus was curious about where this was going. I don't need pity, much less from a human. The blonde chuckled. An annoying sound, the pink legendary concluded with a frown. Annoying because beautiful. Tell me something, Mewtwo, if you had the fate of the humanity, no. Fate of every living being in your hands, what would you do? The Pokemon frowned at him. Do you think I will entertain you? Who do you? Just answer, please. The Pokemon's frown deepened, but he decided to answer it. He thought a moment then grinned coldly. Probably purge the world from their filth and live in a clean and peaceful world. Now it was Blonde's turn to frown. So, you would destroy everything. He hummed and clicked his finger. He brought them to an image of his own world, dust dancing on air and around rocks on ground. He got up for there was no tree to lean on. Is this the world in your mind? The Pokemon stared at him. Because this would be the state of world if you do that. The Pokemon grabbed a fistful of dust and let it drop between his fingers. He frowned. Do you like it? Is it livable? Satisfying? The pink Pokemon was silent, but he didn't need to say anything. This is the world if you destroy everything. How are you so sure of that? There would be. The blonde grinned and put his hand on the pink legendary's shoulder. The Pokemon flinched. I understand and know there are some despicable humans deserving death, but humans vary widely. It is not fair to dump good humans with bad humans because of bad ones' actions. The Pokemon digested Typhoon's words. With another click of fingers, the wasteland gave its place to the forest they were in before. Life is precious, Mewtwo. It doesn't deserve to be destroyed because of a few bad individuals' actions. I learned this hard way and I won't let you learn it that way too. He let his arm drop to his side. You are not a human, are you? I am a human and not at the same time, which isn't important. What is important is I want to be a human. A normal human with a normal life, he sighed dreamily. The Pokemon hummed. The blonde stared at the heavens for a moment. Looks like dawn is breaking, I should go. Before you go, the Pokemon took a deep breath and let it go. He made his mind. Thank you. I believe it is time for me to get out of my cave and see the world in your light, give it another chance. He got flustered. If he was who he was before coming here, he would beat himself for saying that to a human, agreeing with a human and thanking a human. The blonde grinned and caressed the pink head, making the Pokemon fluster even more. You are free to join us if you like. Us? I have 7 other Pokemon. Oh, you're a trainer. He was disappointed, but was it so surprising? It is a little different. I am training them to grow up and be strong, but they are not captured by pokeballs. So, they are with you because they wish to. This was surprising for him, however. That is right. Still, I am helping them to get strong, so if they one day decide to separate their ways with me, they can look after themselves. They are technically wild. Then, why? What is your gain? Companionship, friendship. That can't be it. What about money and fame, things you humans like the most? I do not desire them like most humans do. But that can't be it. There must be something else. Oh, Mewtwo, the blonde rubbed the pink head again. The Pokemon's questioning pink eyes met with Typhoon's gentle blue ones. The Pokemon lost himself in that gaze. You don't know how absolute loneliness feels. Even if you divided yourself from world in that cave, you still have your hatred of humanity with you. I had been alone for so long that there wasn't anything left in me except loneliness. The Alpha stared down on ground. It was a feeling he knew all too well. When you taste the real true loneliness, you understand that the best thing you can get from someone is companionship. Mewtwo nodded with a daze. Do you still wish to join me? The blonde asked to be sure. The Pokemon grinned. Of course. I will find you. I think you are not far from where I am. Very well. We are in the same region. I think humans call it Mountain Kalos. The Pokemon nodded. Then, see you soon, master. The blonde grinned at him and he blacked out as the blonde sent him back to his body. You are not too different from me, are you? The blonde sighed. You are wrong. But I can understand your loneliness very well. I know the feeling. Both of us are lone gods with perhaps too much power. What is our difference? That part is true, I definitively have too much power, but you don't and you are innocent. You don't have the burden of a world's demise on you. You did something right. You are better than me. They both blacked out as the blonde expelled the Pokemon and woke up. The Pokemon thought about what he said in his private dimension. The blonde opened his eyes to see he was in a pile of Pokemon. He was half lying on Zoroark, Lucario was in his arms, Blaziken hugging him from behind. Buziel curled around of his lap, Braixen and newly evolved Greninja each had a leg and grasp. He looked up a little and came face to face with Quilladin. He grinned and substituted with a grass type. Lucario whimpered a little and snuggled closer to the grass type, who pulled the aura Pokemon closer. The blonde grinned and left. Zoroark's dream. It was night time. He had his master in his arms. They were stargazing under a tree. In short, Zoroark was happy. I wish this night would never end. The blonde muttered with his honey voice. The dark fox hummed in agreement. Me too, master. He pulled the blonde closer to himself and took a deep sniff from his hair. Wood ash and cinnamon filled his nose. A scent his mind equalized to love and home. But sadly, it will end. The blonde was really sad when he said that. We still have time, master. It is still night. The blonde hummed. You're right. But we must sleep before it gets too late. The Pokemon grunted. Can I have a last kiss before we sleep, master? He wasn't this bold, but the fact was out of reach for his mind right now. The blonde giggled. Of course. They both closed their eyes and their lips met. When Zoroark opened his eyes, he didn't saw the blonde but a sleeping Quilladin. He kissed Quilladin. His brain took a moment to properly process the fact in his dazed state, then his startled shout woke up others. His eyes raked around desperately for their master. Then he remembered this isn't the first time he has gone and calmed down. He rubbed his eyes with a yawn. What is it, Zoroark? Lucario asked drowsily. He rubbed his face but was too addled to realize the arms around him doesn't belong to their master. Master is gone. Sleepiness was a past thing. There were a couple minutes of mass panic and search. Search equals shouting and running around like chickens. Stop. Lucario shouted after he decided it stopped being hilarious. Stop. Look around for any clues about his whereabouts. He must have left something before he went away. He found order in chaos as they started searching for clues. Blaziken found some lines on ground. Hey guys. And Buziel, I found something. They joined around them. Be back soon. So does anyone know reading? Blaziken asked. Who would have taught us, Dumbus? Quilladin replied dryly. The avian wasn't impressed. Smack. Oof. Eyes, there is another line here. Buziel pointed one going through forest. It was a protrusion. A familiar sign. It seems master thought about that possibility too. Zoroark pointed out as they followed the line. They found the blonde in a clearing. He was sitting Indian style and his hands were clapped together. It looked like he was praying. They looked at each other and got closer unsurely. Then he got up suddenly before any of them mutter a single word. The blonde materialized a hairband and tied his hair with it. Lucario managed to not give out a reaction. Morning, master. The aura Pokemon greeted. What are you doing here? The blonde's eyes met the Pokemon's. I decided to have an exercise of my own. Would you like to watch? It was first time they were going to witness something like that. It was first time Blonde was doing something like that for centuries. Sure. He looked others, Braixen nodded for them all. Then go near that tree. He pointed the tree mentioned with his finger. It was a lone tree. He watched them walk unsurely and joined behind them. They arrived and Lucario twitched as the Blonde burned a symbol on the tree with his finger. "Master, what is that?" Blaziken asked. The Blonde finished his work. "Something for protection." He put his hand on the drawing and Lucario's knees buckled as a cylindrical barrier of energy materialized around them. The Blonde walked out of the area. He took a stone from ground and threw it to the barrier. It exploded on impact. The Pokémon group gasped. The Blonde nodded in satisfaction. "I don't have to say don't try to get out until I am done. Do I?" The Blonde asked with a grin. "Master, is this really necessary?" Quilladin asked with worry. "It is better safe than sorry. And I am sure you will thank me later." He made the necessary distance between them. Song Sug. Madness Combat 4 Theme or Killbit Project Nexus version if you like electrical music. He closed his eyes, took in a deep and slow breath, hold it for a few seconds, and let it out slowly. His eyes snapped open, the warm and gentle gaze of Typhoon was darkened to sharp, cold and calculating gaze of Uzumaki Naruto. Lucario fell down to his knees with a moan as another Blonde materialized with a puff of smoke. Then he triggered his battle mode. They watched intently as their gentle master gave its place to this one, as the clone mirrored him. Their eyes were cold and sharp, their stance was casual, but free of any kind of openings. They were mirror images. Everything was still for a few beats. Then it started. The clone initiated an attack, crossing his arms with its fingers wide as metal stars materialized in his fingers. It caught and threw them to the Blonde, he was lightning fast and more followed. Its movements were too fast for the Pokémon to track precisely as the stars clanged on air and made a closing metal dome around the Blonde. There was another gasp from the Pokémon group when they noticed that. "Master?" Greninja shouted in panic. For the Blonde, however, it may as well be in slow motion. His sapphire eyes found his exit above with boredom dripping from his gaze. He jumped up and put a finger to a star's hole in the middle and floated around a few on his way. He then swung his arm widely around himself as he coated the star with his chakra, causing it to have a disc of wind coming out of its blades. He then blew a mini fireball on it. Combusting wind chakra of the star and sent it back. He watched the clone jump away. Boom. The blast radius was a little less than a dozen meters wide. Ridiculously big for the group. Tiny for the Blonde duo. The Blonde had to tone it down a lot to not incinerate everything in a quarter to half-kilometer radius. Not that the group know this, of course. Both landed and they shot at each other faster than a bullet and met in the middle. What they are doing is as much of a fight as it is a dance with its deadly speed and unnatural grace. Movements are blurry for the Pokémon group, but gouges on ground was clear, a single hit would break any of them fighting type or not. This isn't their gentle master. This is the super-powered assassin he was before he became their master. One of them landed a kick on others' crossed arms and a smack sound echoed in the clearing. The defender slid back at least several dozens of feet. They gulped, perhaps shatter would be more like it. The attacker took a deep breath. "Boss. You will start a forest fire." His clone shouted at him, but it was needing earth chakra instinctively for a granite fortification. He clamped his mouth shut, turned his head away and let the flames out of his nose. It roared away harmlessly at the empty clearing for an uncomfortable amount of time and size for the Pokémon. It was blown for what felt like hours and it was at least 3 times bigger than Braixen's best flamethrower. The group gaped and silently thanked the Blonde for the safe zone. The clone uneasily calmed the chakra down. The Blonde clicked his tongue. "Crossfire is a problem," the Blonde analyzed. Clone was listening, but its guard was up. "And you will get dispelled if I get serious," he hummed. His eyes lit up after a moment of thought and grinned. "Then perhaps we should use that." The clone felt chakra pattern for that and it mirrored the original's grin and chakra kneading. Phantom reality? Only partially, I don't want any real damage, at least anything can be seen. They shared a wild smirk. They ran to each other and then at an arm's length away they stopped suddenly as their eyes met. Lucario fell down fully and moaned again, this time louder and longer. The Pokémon group looked at him with wide eyes. And everything lost color for Blonde duo. Twin excited smiles mirrored each other. The clone was not a clone anymore, but a real twin of the Blonde. No longer had to watch out for direct hits and dispelling anymore. His boss doesn't need to hold back anymore. Chakra exploded and burned everything else in the black and white world. They were on a gigantic, plain, black and white ground now. Everything was colored black and white. Black, white and soft blue of chakra, then the chakra color turned to a malevolent purple. No need to worry about crossfire. No need for restraint. No need to suppress what he is to be a human. Blonde hair whipped around violently as everything was covered in purple. Chakra roaring like an excited beast finally out of its chains and leashes. They jumped away from each other. They were only a dot for each other, but of course the chakra could be clearly seen from anywhere, even if they each went to opposite ends of the Jinjutsu world. Blood-red ethereal flames of Susanoo lit around them, and the evil angel twins spread their wings before long. Blonde duo took a deep breath, filled their lungs to their max capacity, and cast the first of many jutsu they were going to throw away. Fire style. Infernal destruction. They roared inside and fire did it for them outside. It echoed around the vast void around them as they started the real fight. Fire met in the middle and then everything was fire and chakra. End song. A second passed for Pokemon group in the physical world, weeks passed for the blonde and clone in illusion world. Weeks of fighting in a private realm. Completely outside of the real world's rules and restrictions. They got crushed, slashed, pierced, burned, shocked, choked, zapped, ripped whatever kind of damage one can get inflicted, he did the same to the clone. Their Susanoo shattered and reconstructed many times more than he can count. They started to have sex somewhere on the way and continued to fighting after that. Then they switched between fight and sex. It was glorious, magnificent. Divine. The blonde fell to his hands and knees, clone dispelled, and the barrier around the Pokemon followed. He was panting and giggling hysterically while drooling on ground with half-lidded eyes. They ran up to him. All but Lucario, who was lying down on his belly because thought it wouldn't be fun to run around with his spike swinging around. If you ask him however, he would say he was recovering. First to reach was Braixen, the blonde was still giggling. Master? RYOMMPH. One moment he was putting his hand to the blonde's shoulder, next the blonde was pressing him to ground and kissing his face off. Sweat was dripping from his master oozing from him, getting young Firefox high. He closed his eyes and all he could feel was him, ashy cinnamon taste of him on his tongue as the blonde devoured his mouth, scent of his salty and hot sweat on his nose as it oozed on his fur, sounds of his breathing on his ears as the blonde was panting through his nose, feel of his body on him as the blonde pressed him down and massaged kneaded his smaller body with his hands. His master was everywhere and his master was everything. The young fox was losing his grip on reality and his awareness was getting dominated by the blonde. Then the blonde withdrew and it was over. He would be protesting if he wasn't busy with forcing fresh air to his suddenly burning lungs. I giggle, I am sorry. He fell down next to the Firefox. He wheezed between giggles. I am high giggle high on adrenaline. He giggled again and pulled the fox to his chest to cuddle. Their size difference was allowing him curl around the fox and cover him entirely with his body. The fox was lightheaded from lack of fresh air, all blood rushing up and down to a specific place. His sweat continued to ooze on the fox, the should-be uncomfortable liquid gave him intoxicating pleasure, like the blonde was marking him with his scent, telling everyone he owned the fox. He was hard down there. The blonde let him go a little later and lied on his back. He rolled to hide his stick under him. The blonde was no longer panting but still heaving deep breaths. And enjoying the afterglow. Master? Buziel said hesitantly. They were looking at him with confusion and bewilderment. The blonde hummed. Are you alright? The blonde giggled again. She was blushing, they all were blushing. Because the blonde's clothes were sticking to his body. It vanquished any need for imagination. Especially around his groin. Then the blonde ripped off his tattered t-shirt and they blushed more. Quilladin ripped a sprout from his leg in embarrassment. Pieces of the clothing dissolved into black smoke. I am more than alright Buzi, I feel brilliant. He wanted to shout the words, but he figured it would spook them even more. Buzi nodded while trying to sever her eye contact with the blonde's covered groin. The blonde panted. But I will feel better if we rest together a little. Her tails curled around each other a little and she managed to raise her eyes to blonde's chest at least. His wide and athletic chest. His sweaty chest. His naked chest. If that's what you want, she stuttered and shyly walked closer. He grinned with his eyes closed and hugged her to his chest. He kissed top of her head and waited. Waited. Then he cracked his eyes open to look at the other Pokemon standing there awkwardly. I meant all of us, but you are free to just watch us too, of course. He saw them perk up and closed his eyes again. They joined him and Buziel. There was someone other side of him, his eyes caught black fur of the dark fox. He was sniffing him but at the same time trying to not do it too glaringly. He snorted in amusement. Master, what happened? Greninja wasn't fully out of bewilderment, but it was enough for his brain to start working. The blonde sighed deeply one last time and started to breathe normally. Everyone was listening to him intently, even the Firefox trying to put his stick back except Zoroark. He was kind of high on the scent mix of sweat and typhoon. Zoroark. Ma? The fox coughed. Yes, master. The blonde snickered internally, grinned outwardly. Do you remember the day we met? After the Scrafty incident I told you something about my illusionary prowess. Yes, you said your illusions can't affect any and all senses. Why? Well, that is only covering basics. The topic was suddenly more interesting for the dark fox, enough to silence the part of his brain telling him just ignore what the blonde's saying and continue what he was doing. I can also invade mind of my target directly and control them, alter my target senses, and most importantly dominate their perception sense. Perception sense. Yes. It is like this. I cast an illusion on he grinned. You and dominate your perception sense. We will be in a pocket of my mind I call mindscape. A place where I am God. In that pocket I control everything, from massive objects to time and downright the rules of reality. So, we can spend a second in there, but in real world an hour may pass, or we can spend an hour in mindscape and actually a second pass in real world. He snickered. For example, we can do whatever you want in the illusion for minutes, hours, days as much time as you want, but only a second would pass in real world, the fox blushed under his dark fur. Or our eyes met only for a moment in the illusion they stared at each other. But we may be doing it for hours in real world. I can sever my consciousness, I can also cast it in a way, so only you gaze at nothingness while I don't know, cover you head to toe with glue and feathers maybe. They all gulped. Oh. The fox muttered as he averted his gaze. The blonde chuckled then got serious. But the real deal is something I call the phantom reality. His gaze was on the blonde again. All I said so far is mental, nothing is physical, but with the phantom reality, my illusions affect my target so impeccably that their brain would believe the illusion is real and reality is an illusion, so it will try to replicate everything happened in illusion to their real body. For example, I cast the illusion on you and trigger phantom reality. Then we started kissing in the illusion. He pecked the fox on lips. But then we got too intense, I accidentally pressed too hard and bruise your lips. He ran his index finger on dark fox lips gently. Then I break the illusion. Your lips will be bruised in real world too because your brain he put the finger on top of the fox head. Is so convinced the bruise is real that it will make the bruise itself. His hand rubbed the fox ear. They had wide eyes. No need for physical prowess, with that kind of power alone the blonde was invincible. Their master was awesome. What we did our fight was that. 1 second passed in real world. Weeks passed in mindscape. We teared apart each other sometimes literally. I didn't let the actual damage reflect, of course, but everything else was real. Sore muscles, dripping sweat, burning lungs, adrenaline. The blonde sighed shakily and pecked the dark fox again. Where is Lucario? He couldn't come because he popped a boner. Quilladin blurted out without giving it a thought, his mind was still wrapping around the semantics of blonde's illusionary prowess, then it connected with his mouth, and he grimaced. Blaziken wanted to smack him, but the blonde didn't bat an eyelash and hummed instead. They blinked. You're not. Blaziken trailed off. The blonde snorted in amusement. It's alright, you are all adolescents or young adults, and as you know I am far from a squeamish prude. You go and have breakfast. I will send him after you. He watched them get up and wiped his hand on his chest. He gazed at his wet hand. I need to take a bath. Zoroark swallowed dryly, his mind was suddenly full with thoughts of licking him clean. He watched them go away and sighed. His eyes landed on the firefox lying down on ground. Good thing he didn't drape the fire type. He was close though. Breakson. Master. The firefox voice was thick with arousal. The blonde stiffened. Can you see claim me? Claim you? Why yes. Claim me, mate. He said it shyly, but his voice was so thick with arousal and need Typhoon swallowed and rolled the Pokemon. His face was glowing and he was panting. His red length was throbbing and a string of pre was connecting it with a patch of wet fur. Typhoon swallowed again. The fox took his paws wrong way, his ears drooped. Please don't reject me master. I can't please Jay just. SHHH. He cut the fox's pleas with his mouth. The fox sniffed a little more, then responded to the blonde's gentle kiss. Tears continued to flow from his amber eyes. I will, if that is what you desire. He whispered against the Pokemon's lips. The Pokemon's ears perked up. But not yet. Then they were back down again. Why not? I'm ready, please Master P please. He was begging again. The blonde put his index finger to the fox's lips to stop him this time. Not yet because you haven't even had breakfast yet. A sudden pang of hunger agreed with the blonde. The fox sniffed and wiped his tears. He got up with another sniff. See, can I at least have one last kiss before I go? I have something better. The blonde got to his knees with a grunt. Breakson walked closer to help him up, but blonde held up his hand with a grin. Look into my eyes Breakson. The fox obeyed. Sit down and lean on that tree behind you. But master there was a tree behind him. We are in my illusion. 1 second will pass in real world while you take your time here. Now do as I said, please. The fox was wide-eyed but sat down and leaned back. The blonde kissed him softly on lips. Their second passed. Breakson's knees buckled and he fell on the blonde's embrace. He rubbed the fox back and rebalanced him to his feet with a chuckle. Careful. The fox nodded and grinned back. Then he stepped back and grimaced at the wet feel under his paw. He looked down to see what he stepped on and closed his eyes with his paws. He stepped on the evidence of their quality time with his master. His face was burning, but it didn't stop wagging of his tail. The blonde laughed at the fox's reaction and pecked him. The Pokemon looked at the blonde shyly between his fingers. "I think you should go before they get further away." The fox nodded. Thank you, master," he shouted while running after the rest of them with a spring on his feet and wagging tail. The blonde waved at him and got to his feet fully. He walked to Lucario's side but stopped midway and grinned mischievously. It took only a second for him to forage a small pile of pecha and return to where he was. He continued to his way to Lucario. "Lucario? Are you alright?" "Yes, master, I will join you in a moment." The blonde hummed behind the blue Pokemon. The others went to have breakfast. A pause. "Aren't you hungry?" I'm not." He was. The blonde sighed dramatically. "Oh, I foraged a small pile of pecha for you, but if you aren't hungry, perhaps I should eat them." He paused a bit, long enough for someone to eat a berry. Delicious, guess I hit the jackpot with that tree." Good job, master." Growl. Something cold and sweet smelling touched Lucario's nose. He opened his eyes to see pink visage of the berry. He closed his eyes again. Master, I told you." "Lucario, I can hear your hunger. Please eat." The Pokemon squeezed his eyes and slowly took the berry from the blonde's hand with his teeth. The blonde continued to feed him until there was no berry left. The Pokemon refused to open his eyes, but he couldn't do anything about his nose. The blonde's sweaty scent washed over him in absence of berry's sweet aroma and breathed life back to his erection. He cursed in his head. "Do you feel better now?" Yes, master. Thank you." He was feeling worse. He fell back to square one. The blonde sighed and put his hand on the Pokemon's head and rubbed his soft blue fur. "Lucario, what you are trying to hide under yourself is completely natural for a young man, well, Pokemon like yourself. You shouldn't be ashamed of your bodily reactions." The Pokemon flinched and shyly stared up to the blonde over him. His gaze danced over the blonde's wet shorts, muscly abs, wide chest, and finally found his gentle blue eyes. His face burned and erection throbbed. The blonde got up. "I will go away if it is making you uncomfortable. I should go and wash up anyway." He started to walk away to the closest clean water source, a lake. Master." The Pokemon's call stopped him. He turned back to the Pokemon. He was slowly getting to his feet. "See, can I ask a favor?" "Sure." The blonde got back and helped the Pokemon to his feet. He politely let his gaze not wander down. The Pokemon was looking everywhere but the blonde and bashfully covering his lower spike with his paws. "Yes." "See, can you mate with me? Make love with me? Have sex with me?" His brain and heart gave the order to his maw say one of these latter with more passion than former. They both usually worked together when it came to blonde, they adored him that much, but his maw wasn't working. The breath wasn't passing over his vocal cords, the sound wasn't reaching his maw to get shaped, and his lips wasn't letting the words out. "See, can you rut me? Fuck me. Screw me." They were screaming now with no small amount of profanities, but no, those words were the most coming out of his lips. Then his lips weren't responding anymore. Then the blonde covered his lips and tries with his own, hot tears of frustration, wet his cheeks, while his lips did something right for once and responded to gentle touch of the blonde's lips. "I believe you want me to help you with this." He took pity on the blue Pokemon. He wasn't going to go all the way until he asked, but at least the Pokemon can have what he has in mind. His touch on the hidden thing was feather soft, but the Pokemon might as well be struck by lightning. He trembled and tried to get closer to the touch, but the blonde pulled his hand before he could get more contact. He swallowed and his gaze fell to ground. "Why yes. Please, master." He was all over ground right now. Knees weak with relief and half expecting to wake up and realize this was all a wet dream he had every once in a month or two before the blonde, around once every week while he was still a Riolu. Every night after he evolved. The blonde got behind the Pokemon. The blonde tapped the Pokemon's thighs twice to sign their time was over after 5 more minutes. The Pokemon sighed and got up. Then he realized something. He turned around to face the blonde with an expression somewhere between worried, excited and hopeful. "Master, you don't you?" It was rare the problem was not with his lips, and actually his brain or heart were struggling to put his problem to words. The blonde, his gentle and understanding master, understood his confusion and straightened up. He put a hand on his blue-furred cheek. "It is alright, Lucario, I am willing to wait." "Master?" The blonde just grinned at him softly. "Wait for what?" "Willing to wait until those words spill from your lips or actions, willing to wait until you have no hesitations left." His hand traveled top of his head. "Willing to wait until both your mind and body is ready for me. Until then I am waiting patiently for that day to come." His lips trembled and he was the Riolu back in that day again, the day he evolved. The day he said he loved his master but at the same time he couldn't. He hugged the blonde like he did then, but he was mindful of his spike. "Master, I love you. I love you so much it hurts." He had no problems about admitting it, it was solved after he showed his love with his actions. That was Pa. Showed his love with his actions. Willing to wait until those words spill from your lips or actions. His eyes lit up, but he was much too spent right now to take action. "I love you too, Lucario." They were in reverse position in a blink of eye, and the blonde pressed the Pokemon to the tree with a kiss. Then he remembered himself and pulled back. "Not until he wishes. Not until he wishes. Not until he wishes," he chanted in his mind. "And I would love to take a bath right now. I am going to the lake, you rest and come to me with others when they arrive." The Pokemon hummed and rested against a tree. "Or you can join me." Resting his exhausted body against a tree versus resting his exhausted body in a warm pool of steamy water with his completely nude and dripping master. The Pokemon took a grand total of 1 second to think this over. "I'll join you. You might want to lie down or at least sit down," the blonde casually suggested. The Pokemon sat down. Then the blonde was everywhere for his sixth sense. He was caressing him, licking him, embracing him. Crumble. Crack. Even Earth loves him. Willing to change shape for an aura version of pat on head. Whoosh. Even water loves him, willing to go where he wanted for an aura version of good boy. Hiss. Even fire loves him. Willing to heat cold stone for an aura version of a few strokes. Both fire and water. One of the most famous arch enemies of nature, willing to embrace and make out for a chance at sliding over the blonde's sun-kissed skin. What chance did he have if even such great forces loves him? What was the reason of his reluctance anyway? The blonde has never done anything ill-intended, never shown them any malevolence, never hurt them. Well, except when he decided to train them. Even then he tried not to, but it was inevitable with his strength. But that does not count, it was physical, and he healed them immediately after training. What was the reason of his fear? Rejection. He flustered. The day he showed he didn't intend to reject him, he is even willing to wait for him until he is ready. And he? How long was he going to make his master wait? How dare he make his angel of a master wait? He found himself on his knees with his eyes closed. He opened his eyelids to let his crimson gaze land on the blonde's back. Then the blonde turned to him. "I think it is ready." The Lucario just stared at the sapphire gaze of the blonde for what felt like an eternity. "Lucario?" Master, his lips were about to stop working, but rest of his everything rebelled and forced them to work this time. "See, can you take me?" Take. He understood what the Pokemon was talking about, of course. But still wanted to know if he can name his wish like the Fire Fox did. Even if he couldn't, it was alright. What he said was enough for him. "Why yes. I want why you to take me." Ma, he swallowed to revive the dying rebellion. He clenched his paws. "Ma. Mate." His master graced him, and his eyes fell to ground as he silently nodded. The blonde silently walked closer, and he felt like it was the day they met. He closed his eyes and expected a blow, thinking he took it too far. The blonde caressed his head instead, again like the day they met. He flinched a bit and their eyes met again, like the day they met. "You are the second one to propose today." The Pokemon's eyes held the sapphire gaze for a few seconds, then fell down. He would love him even if he didn't choose him. Stay with him, perhaps not as a lover but as a friend. But can they stay as friends after proposing that? They can hardly stay as friends after their intimate time under that tree. He flustered. But the blonde did say it was common for them to have sex without being lovers. Perhaps he just did it to help him like he said and didn't put much thought to it. Doesn't matter, he was even willing to be just a guard in background. As long as he wasn't sent away, he would accept whatever his role would be. He bit his lip. But the blonde was already so much stronger than him and he already have 6 other Pokemon in love with him already. His eyes fell down. He can't even sneak around him. His senses were much stronger too. What would his role be then, servant? Was he really going to stoop that low? Can't he just walk away? His eyes shot up just a moment, only enough to see his face, then shot down. He made a low sound from his throat at the thought of not seeing him anymore, not being with him, not feeling his presence with his aura sense, not taking his scent. Servitude it is then if it came to that. "Hey, are you going to choose one of you us?" "Of course not." The blonde replied calmly, and the Pokemon nearly fell down from the rush of relief. "I love all of you and willing to let you choose what kind of love we will have. Braixen wants the same kind of love and I will do all I can to make you both happy. You and any others if they wish." The Pokemon was silent for a few beats. "So, it was Braixen." The blonde hummed an affirmative. He put his spiked paws around his neck, blonde strands tickled his paw pads a little. He coiled one arm under his thighs and other around his back, then lifted him up. He turned around a little to not poke his master with his chest spike, then leaned to him. The blonde brought them to the bath, he let his shorts dissolve on the way. With a soft sigh the blonde sat down, then half lied on the makeshift lounge chair. It was deep enough to cover him all the way to his chest. The Pokemon was blushing because of where he was sitting. On the blonde's lap. Embarrassing. Yes. Uncomfortable. Of course not. Did you and breaks in he thought a little about how to ask the question without sounding rude or demanding. Technically not. The blonde explained what he did to the others. In short, we had a private second that actually was an hour or two. So, made it in an illusion. Lucario thought it was so kinky and brilliantly convenient. No, I just went down on him. Went down on him. The Pokemon's face burned as the blonde tapped his lips twice with a grin. Oh. He felt like the fur on his face was going to combust, even if it was wet from steam. I see you like the idea, the blonde said with an amused tone when he felt the Pokemon poke him with his lower spike. The Lucario was sure if the blood continued to rush his face, either he would faint from blood loss or his head would explode from it. The Pokemon scooted away a little, so his new arousal wasn't poking the blonde and laid his head against the blonde's chest. Lucario, it's alright. I was just amused with your reaction. I am sorry for giving you the wrong idea. The blonde caressed Lucario's back, his voice was as gentle as his touch. Spiked paws circled around him as the Pokemon scooted back where he was. One hand trailed up to the Pokemon's head in response. Then the hand started to rub him and pour water to the places above it. Master? We are here to bath, remember? The blonde grinned. Right, bath? He forgot. He looked away in embarrassment. He rubbed his shoulders, back, sides and continued down. He bit his lip as the hands passed over his butt and continued with thighs. He gasped as fingers massaged his feet, passing around his toes and rubbing his paw pads. He squeezed his eyes shut and brought his paws to his muzzle to not giggle and or moan at the ticklish feel. He still bit his lip and grinned instead. The blonde snickered above him and stopped massaging. He looked up in question and the massage returned in vengeance. When giggle the sounds escaped before he can bite them back. His paws flew to his maw and he blushed in embarrassment. The blonde laughed back. You're ticklish. He stated with a snicker. He then pulled the Pokemon's paws from his maw and pecked him there. It's cute. The Pokemon flustered again. He lifted him and turned him around to wash his other side. He leaned back to the blonde's chest to let him have better access. Rubbing continued, his chest, abs around his hard-on, but over his ball sack and sheath, his fluster darkened to a blush, the hands continued with legs and again his feet. There. The blonde was satisfied. A moment later the blonde wasn't behind him. He walked closer to middle of the pool and started to rub himself clean. Lucario thought about looking away to give the blonde some privacy, but couldn't find a reason. Not after today's events. You can pleasure yourself too, if you like. But I suggest being quick about it, others should be about to be. Master? Lucario glared behind him. They arrived just in time. Here. Well, he did say he was going to bath and only freshwater around is the so. It's too late. The blonde sighed. Them hummed. Lucario their eyes met and Lucario gasped loudly. Then moaned loudly. Now you know how Breaksin felt perhaps even more with your aura sensitivity. The blonde grinned. The Pokemon hummed absently in response. He had a stupid grin on his face and was more or less still in the illusion world. Maz. Hey everyone, I found Master. He is breathtaking. I mean bathing. He is bathing here. He snickered at the avian slip-up. Lucario shook it off and got out of the pool. He shook the water from his fur as others joined the avian. I thought I told you I was going to. He saw the +1 of all pics. She was crying. All emotion and color drained from the blonde's face as the Pokemon knowledge in his brain triggered at sight. Her evolved form. Ninetales. 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 He bit his lip until it bled then continued biting. Ninetales. 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 9. Ninetales. Master. He gave out a startled shout and fell back with a loud splash. His startled eyes landed on Greninja's equally startled ones. He was hyperventilating. But he reconnected with the world he is in right now. His panting slowed down bit by bit, then he was breathing normally. His gaze was calm. I'm alright. I'm alright. He heaved a deep sigh one last time. Thank you. Now how can I help you? He managed to ask with only a little trembling in his voice. So, in short. You want us to infiltrate a local evil organization's headquarters to save your brother, possibly risk our limbs and lives for someone we don't really know? He asked as he raked his fingers over his long blonde locks to dry them. He was out of the pool and clothed. His group glared at nothing while tears continued to flow from Vulpix's eyes. Don't get him wrong, he was going to help her. He just wanted to know how much she is willing to go for her brother. He is an Ninetales. 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 It was enough for him. After what happened to Tsu. He internally punched his own gut with enough power to crush a mountain. Is that it? He managed to not give any outwardly reaction. The Vulpix sniffed. I know I ask too much B, but you are my B best bet. She sniffed again. They told me why you can do everything. P please. I will do anything. JJ just save my B brother. Well, that was right to some extent. But everything they were talking about was different from everything he can do. He turned a dry look at the culprit, a sheepish Quilladin. He was grinning and rubbing behind his head. Ahem, you are awesome. The blonde deadpanned at the poor excuse of an explanation. The blonde glared away after a moment. It isn't about me, Quilladin. You will be in real danger, perhaps even lethally. I can't take such a risk. I have lost more than enough to such risks. Master, it was rare for Blaziken to be stern, but it happened sometimes, like this time. I understand you don't want us to be in danger, but we are maybe not as strong as you, but definitely not weak. He put a clawed hand on the blonde's forearm. The day we met, you told me you wanted to help where you can. You can help here. You can save lives from slavery or whatever those humans do to those Pokémon. The blonde's glare fell down to ground. We will be alright. You will be with us. Please reconsider. Typhoon's softer gaze swept over the Pokémon group. Their eyes were nervous but determined. He sighed and raised his head to heavens with closed eyes. When his eyes were opened again, they were at least several times older than the age he looked like. You are right. Everyone was silent. That is a promise I made to myself. The blonde thought. That and several more. I promised not to take any apprentices after. Song Sug. Naruto Shippuden unreleased Ost. Hatred. He found Itachi's mangled corpse on the Uchiha compound on the doorstep of Clan Head's mansion. His own mansion. His head was several feet away from his body, eyes gouged out with a grim determination forever etched on his face. There weren't any fighting tracks, he allowed himself to be killed. Only reason came to his mind was Sasuke. He found the younger Uchiha's corpse days later. Again, eyes gouged. Along with some signs of struggle this time. He could detect some faint chakra traces of trademark jutsu of Iwa. Rinnegan glowed and throbbed in his eye sockets. Then they had the gall to use those manjikyu against him. To control him. They didn't live long, of course. Neither the shinobi nor the village they are from. His gaze was even older now. I promised not to show my powers, but use them for even most trivial reasons. I promised to stay low and live an uneventful life. But then decided to explore the world. And most importantly, I promised myself to forget and never bring him to daylight again. His eyes stone cold and promising eternal suffering if his will is not fulfilled. Typhoon was watching helplessly right now, in the backseat of their mind. He didn't want to let the demon god take control, but right now one part of him was seeing red and demanding retribution. His god part responded to the demand. At least he managed to beg off his god part not to kill the poor, oblivious Pokémon. It was a half-assed begging. It was hard to put his back to it after he saw what she'd done to his sweet Lucario, but it was enough for sparing her life and sanity, at least most of the latter. Go away. He said calmly, but the weight behind the words was crushing. He was barely holding back most of his killing intent, only a tiny trickle was escaping, only enough to freeze one individual in fear or unnerve an entire village. He once killed an entire army of ninja through heart attack with his killing intent alone, so this was nothing. The Houndoom bowed her head with a soft growl of quickly crumbling defiance, borderline a whine. She slowly retreated without taking her eyes away from his, her eyes and tail between her legs make her fear obvious. She left his eyesight. He sighed and reburied him. Uzumaki Naruto, the ruthless god of death. I broke my promises so far. His gaze swept over them again, with a soft grin this time. But I do not regret it. His grin fell except the last one. Still, it is better than. He dropped down the heart in his hand and whipped his hand to flicker a bit of blood covering it. The Houndoom lied lifeless with a pool of blood forming under her. Scent of blood excited him, but he remembered the Pokémon behind him. He faced back to see his sweet Lucario's eyes tainted with horror. Their eyes met and he whimpered. He was terrified of him. And Song. He closed his tired eyes. Let's try not to break this one at least. Very well. The group perked up. He is about to arrive, so I guess we will be fine. The silence stretched a bit, then a pink Pokémon walked out of bushes. His gaze moved over the bewildered Pokémon group, then landed on the blonde hair. He stared at it for a few seconds, then fell to one knee and bowed his head. Master. He announced his presence. There was a silence for a bit. Mewtwo, what are you doing? The Pokémon blinked and his eyes shot up then down again in a second. The blonde was only an arm's length away. I don't understand your question, Master. He was expecting anything from a beating to an explanation. Your stance. The blonde elaborated. You are a legendary, act like one. Start with getting up and look straight at my eyes instead of being so submissive. The Pokemon stiffened, then his gaze raised up slowly and hesitantly. He saw the blonde stretched palm as an offer to get him back to his feet. He hesitantly took the offer and got to his feet. It took a few more seconds for their eyes to meet. The pinkish gaze was insecure and unsure. My old master never let me. I am not your old master, Mewtwo. You are free from them. Stop looking for them in me. A sun-kissed hand caressed his pink head. Your life of that time is over, let it go. The legendary prayed with all his might. This wasn't a ruse to make him lower his guard, to make him a slave again. Even if it was, he would forever keep this moment on his heart. And probably let the blonde use him as a slave for rest of his life. Master, do you know him? Zoroark asked. Sapphire eyes met questioning emerald ones. The blonde nodded. He came to me in my dreams. We talked a bit and he decided to join us. Mewtwo didn't comment on Arceus. He will not say anything if his master didn't. Now, I believe we have an organization to infiltrate. The blonde materialized a hairband and tied his hair as his tattered clothes turned to a full bodysuit, covering him from neck down entirely. Only thing not changing in his garb was his dark blue sandals. Mewtwo only realized he had been still holding the blonde's hand when he retrieved it to tie his hair. He flushed. "As sister," a masculine voice called in a completely dark place. He felt something, someone, with an unreal power. His affinity over death allowed him to feel the presence. The dark power of death. It was like looking at the sun. But it wasn't bright. Space, it was more like space. You can stare all you want, but you just can't see the end of it. He felt tiny compared to that. It felt like the earth was tiny compared to that. He whimpered very lowly, enough for her sister to miss. Yes, I feel it too, and she can, to some extent. Far from what he can, however. She was oblivious to the real presence. Do you think they will help us? I don't know, but they are quite. Boom. Crack. Crumble. Everyone, let's get them out of here. They heard a human talk. He had a nice voice for a human. And the sentence itself was the nicest thing they heard for a long time. Yes, master. A group of Pokemon replied. It was almost a chorus. They heard sounds of opening cages. Brother. They heard a young Vulpix's worried cry. But no one opened the gate of their cage. As sister, shall I risk angering them and get killed, or wait for their demise in hands of that human? The answer is obvious. We may have a chance at freedom if you. I think only that one is left. The human hummed. Typhoon stared at the giant gate with two Pokemon behind it. He scratched his chin with one hand. Other was busy with carrying an unconscious Ninetales. The blonde healed him from many injuries, but he was in a coma. They must have been experimenting on him, making him suffer quite a lot in the meantime. Uzumaki Naruto was barely under the surface. We can break it with brute force, but I may crush whatever behind the door. Then his eyes found the Firefox of his team. His eyes softened a bit. Delphox, up for a challenge. His entire team was fully evolved now. Thanks to Team Flare members. His eyes dilated a little, and Uzumaki Naruto got a bit further away from surface. Master, what shall I do? His voice was a bit deeper, a voice Typhoon enjoyed hearing. He waved his hand for him to come closer. I need you to melt the lock. He pulled his stick from his sleeve. The tip lit up instantly. Alright. His eagerness was cute, but he wasn't pointing the stick to the right place. The blonde gently put the unconscious fox down and got behind him. Master. He didn't say anything, just put his hand on the Pokemon's paw and guided the stick to where the flames needed. Your eagerness is cute, but you need to strike the right spot if you want to do it right. It sounded like an innuendo. The fox here he was whispering to twitched from his breath. Higher now. Fox. Alright, sorry. The fox managed to rip a little of his attention from the mouth on his ear. Enough to charge the flamethrower, the blonde asked. Whoosh. Whirl. Clang. The lock melt down. Good job. The blonde kissed his head. He got flustered and grinned. The blonde walked forward to open the gate. Creak. They didn't imagine it, did they? The gate was really opening, right? They narrowed their eyes from the light suddenly flooding inside. This is not a dream, right? It was him. It was the human. The Veltal nearly fell to his knees. He couldn't stop slight bucking. He could feel him clearer now. The light coming from behind him made it like he was a divine being. The feeling they got from him also helped the thought perfectly. Slit blue and faintly glowing soft eyes graced theirs. He was not a human. He mustn't be one. He must be an angel, perhaps the Reaper, but an angel nonetheless. Or a god. No, he is a god. Yveltal thought. Xerneas figured he is at least an exceptional, perhaps divine being, but could not go more than that. We must go. His voice echoed in their cage, and they got out without resistance. Yveltal obeyed almost instinctively. You don't question a god. You don't hesitate. You just obey. The Pokemon outside gasped and fell to their knees in reverence. All but their fellow legendary, Mewtwo. The pink legendary poked holes on them with his stare. Everyone, we must go before. I admit, I am impressed that you managed to reach this far, but it is the most you will be able to go. Song Sug. FMA Ost. Dante theme, phonograph version is better. A male Pyro R. A shiny Gyarados. But evolved further. The Tyranitar. The Dragonite. And an orange-haired man arrived. Their eyes met for less than a moment and the blonde coldly glared at the orange-haired man. You will not be an obstacle the way of a better world. You will not leave my headquarters. He was the leader of the Team Flare. Lysander. He was the reason so many Pokemon had been enslaved and experimented on. He was the reason the Ninetales was in coma. Uzumaki Naruto and Typhoon fought in his mind for domination. Uzumaki Naruto won, but Typhoon was still there, below surface and begging to not let his team see his cruelty. The Aura Pokemon fell to his knees as a puff of smoke later, there was another blonde. Chestnut helped him back to his feet. The clone saw the blonde's eyes and understood it was summoned by Uzumaki Naruto, not Typhoon. Sir. He bowed a bit to show he was ready to hear the blonde's commands. Destroy the device and dispel. Uzumaki Naruto's cold voice echoed around. Lucario's eyes widened and he gulped. He must be awakened. This was his voice, not their master's. As you command. The clone was gone with a puff of smoke. Moments later there was a huge explosion. It quaked the ground under them. A rush of power danced around them and reconnected with Xerneas and Yveltal. Both stood straighter, the rush rejuvenated their power. Lysander gnashed his teeth. How dare you everyone, attack. The Pokemon wasn't sure of their success but got ready to do as their master commanded. The quartet sent their strongest attack. Hyper Beam. The blonde fed the earth with his chakra. Lucario fell to his knees again and scratched ground with his blunt claws. Don't come out, he slowed and deepened his breaths. This was the worst time to get aroused with aura stimulation. He tried to distract himself, but it was easier said than done when all he can feel is the blonde with one of his senses. Boom. Well, this provided the much needed distraction. Lysander and his team were shocked to see the latter's combined attack was blocked with a thick wall of earth. I must applaud them, they nearly cracked granite fortification. I could barely cast it with minimum because of Lucario's presence, but still, it is no small feat for Pokemon. It seems they are a bit too strong for my team. Maybe his eyes found pink figure of Mewtwo. He dispelled the wall. It crumbled back to ground like it wasn't there before. Mewtwo, do you think you can take them on? His cold voice echoed again as the calm and cold gaze of the blonde met with pink and bewildered ones. The Pokemon shrugged it off and scanned the situation with a strategical light. The main threats were Gyarados and Tyranitar, former for her brute force and latter for her type advantage. Other two, while not ignorable, were lesser threats. It isn't much of a problem if he doesn't get hit directly, but if they attack others, especially if Tyranitar use a dark attack. One he can't block without using his own body. Can other legendaries deflect attacks if they came to them? Or are they too worn out? Can he fight and guard others at the same time? His eyes met his master's again, he wasn't panting, sweating or showing any other signs of fatigue. Can he block attacks if they come again? Can you block attacks if they aim at you? The blonde grunted. Depends on how much time it will take. If you took too much time and I get caught up, I may get too excited. You don't want to see what happens then, believe me. The legendary swallowed and nodded. He guessed it included overwhelming crossfire and or possibly a bloodbath. The odds are a bit too much against me, but I will do my best, master. The blonde hummed then sighed. Then perhaps it's best if I do it myself and went off a little. The blonde stepped forward. But you said, he grinned at the pink Pokemon. Don't worry. As I said, it needs some time for me to get into the mood. I will end it before that time. The opponent team was right to question their chances, but they didn't know that and lunged at the blonde to try their chance with physical attacks. Uzumaki Naruto thought at least 100 ways to kill, maim or cripple them as they closed on him. His right index twitched to base of his right thumb instinctively. The place Red Reaper, his eternally bloody sword rest in its seal, but Typhoon reminded him the Pokemon behind him. His team. The team not corrupted with constant bloodbath like he did. Not even with one kill. The team didn't know the permanent blood covering his hands and forearms and elbows and hair and his whole body. His innocent team. The big and important part of his heaven here. Then a glimpse of his own world came to his mind, result of a vengeful wrath. His face soured at the idea of anything like that happening here. Uzumaki Naruto realized he had no place here. He relaxed his pointer and let Typhoon take control again for the time being, of course. His counterpart was too soft to do some things. The Houndoom incident was a proof to that. But it is alright, he will be the demon part of the coin. Typhoon will be the angel. Typhoon decided to be gentle with dispatching them. Through charm. Siren's song. In rapture his chakras started to sing. There was a faint song, beautiful but coming from far away. Too faint to distinguish clearly but still enjoyable to hear. That was for the Pokémon behind him, except Lucario. For the group in front of him and Lucario however. It was divine. The song was divine. It must be sung by a group of angels for it was too good to be earthly. It is the opposing team's thought, but Lucario was fully aware it was the blonde doing the singing. They only heard it and they only thought about it, everything else was ignored. They can listen to it for rest of their lives. Do you like my song? That voice, that beautiful voice not part of the song but so in sync with it, so complimented by it so deserving of it. Like the song was made for it. Such a brilliant voice. Yes, master. They chorused. Lysander was confused. Just what happened? And what song? He wasn't hearing anything. The blonde didn't let him hear his song. He didn't deserve it. The blonde's team watched with wide eyes. Do they hear the song clearer? Was that one of the blonde's illusions or something else? Whatever the reason, they were at their master's mercy. And they were so happy about it. There was a pang of jealousy as that team and Lucario surrounded and dotted on their master. Do you want me to stop? No. No. Please master, one more minute, one more moment. We will do anything. Just a little more. His own team shocked to hear the desperation in the Dragonite's voice. The opponent team was genuinely terrified of it. Terrified of their master's silence. The blonde hummed. The sound sent a shiver over the affected Pokémon's spines. That guy displeases me so much that I want to stop singing just so he can't hear me. He pointed to Lysander. He flinched back from the action and the glares he received from Pokémons. Along with his glare, Lucario's eyes started to glow and he started to levitate with power of aura he was leaking. He was unconsciously drawing power. What are you doing? I told you to attack him. Kill him. The glares got even harsher at the mention of the blonde's death. Two giant bones of aura materialized in Lucario's paws. His fur and aura sensors rippled with power. You're right, master. He is disgusting. His voice is like grinding stones next to yours. He shall not stain your song with his voice. He shall not soar your eyes with his sight. He shall not disgrace you with his presence, shall not threaten you, not even with words. The utter devotion in the Pyroar's words fanned the flames of their jealousy. We shall kill him. We will kill him in your name. Lucario howled in anger and conviction. What? What? Now have you ever killed anyone? Lysander let out a startled shout at the mention of what he correctly guessed as his death. They made a face like they did the single most disgraceful action one can do. Disappointing their master. We did not, master. We are so ashamed to admit. But if you desire so, we will start and don't stop until we cleanse the world from filth in your name. Gyarados swore with passion. The blonde chuckled. Another shiver passed over their spines. Then don't taint your conscience with something like that. He caressed the fire lion's mane a bit much to his own team's chagrin. The lion purred. Lucario dispelled the bone rush, but a sheet of aura still covered him. I believe in second chances. He walked closer to the orange-haired man. He turned tail to run, but Lucario jumped on his way. He fell back. He turned around and he had a good look at the blonde's eyes for the first time. Slid in faintly glowing sapphire. Inhuman. They're pokeballs, please. The blonde showed his palm to him. Lysander hesitated. How dare you make master wait? Tyranitar roared. Lysander flinched again and handed the pokeballs to the blonde. He crushed them one by one with his hand. I will spare your life but will take your Pokémon. I hope next time we see each other your ways will be changed a bit. If not, the blonde trailed off. He walked away, followed by the swarm of Pokémon. They stared at him on their way. Some with fear, some with anger, some with sadness. He was alone. Sitting on cold concrete and reflecting on the last half an hour. And song. They got out of the HQ and he stopped singing after they put some distance between themselves and the building. Wow. It was a normal reaction. His victims, surviving ones at least, minds needed a few minutes to recover after exposure to his siren songs. After that, well, things may get ugly. He gently placed the Ninetales to ground as everything came back to the affected Pokémon. Why brother, I isn't waking up. He isn't dead, is he? Vulpix turned her watery eyes up to Blonde for answers. No, Vulpix. They had done some experiments on your brother. I healed him, but he needs some time to rest and recuperate. He gently explained as he caressed her head. I suppose he will be hungry when he wakes up. Why don't you go and find some berries for him in the meanwhile? She sniffed and nodded. She dashed away and was gone in seconds. He sat down and waited for anyone to speak. Lucario sat next to him. He rubbed the Pokémon's shoulder, but he was too busy with processing what happened back there. He just continued rubbing absently and let the Pokémon have some time to gather his thoughts. They believed in Lysander, they believed his actions was just, they believed he was going to make the world a better place. But. They watched the blonde caress yellow fur of the unconscious Ninetales gently. The Ninetales he saved from Team Flare. From slavery and experiments and pain and. Was this really what the Team Flare is? Was this really what Lysander does? Were they not working for a better world? Master, what happened? I remember listening to a magnificent song you were singing and Lucario's eyes widened. He nearly attacked that orange-haired man with intent to. But they're enemies, that man's own team. And with a power he didn't knew he had. He gulped. Just what did his master do? It isn't surprising you managed to hear it even if I didn't sing to you, you have always been sensitive, it was a song I sing with my chakra, the power you are so sensitive to. He caressed the blue head. But master. We nearly. Shhh, the blonde curled his arms around the Pokemon. He was shivering. I will not let you have that weight on your conscience. It is my weight to carry in our team. He rubbed the blue head as the Pokemon stared down sadly. Most of the blonde's team stared down sadly. That's right, their gentle master has to carry a lot of weight on his heart. More than they want to imagine. Perhaps more than they can imagine. So, if such a day comes. Leave it to me. Your innocence is something I'd like to preserve as long as possible. It was directed to his whole team instead of just Lucario. As for your innocence. Two of them already asked the question, he mentally shrugged, it is their choice to preserve that innocence or not. The blue Pokemon sniffed and returned the hug. The blonde rubbed his back soothingly. It is something he loved. The blonde sighed and decided to address the elephant in the room. Your master was once a good man. A compassionate soul. He commented towards the Lysander's old team. But unfortunately, pure souls get corrupted easily and heavily. His compassion couldn't stand getting abused forever. He frowned. I can't really blame him, I know very well what human greed is. But the path he decided to walk would affect everyone, including himself, horribly. What he wanted to do would purge the world from every living being. Like Luna did to mine. That is why I took all of you, I believe you are his strongest Pokemon. He was staring at Gyarados. I took you but let him live. Perhaps one day he will be like his old self, at least not someone doing experiments on weak and plotting for a better world. I will check on him again in time. He sighed and his gaze fell to the unconscious Pokemon. He was petting the yellow fox with one hand and blue jackal with other. Perhaps it was too much to hope for, time will show if I made a mistake with letting him live. What about us? Are we your captives? Slaves? He stared at the Pyroar for a second. Then back to Ninetales. You are free to go, but I would be happy if you don't go back to Lysander. That's it? You are letting us go? What if we return to Lysander? Gyarados was surprised to hear that. It is better than enslaving you. I can also kill you, they all flinched. All except legendaries. But I don't see a point for such an excessive action. Also, my team won't be happy if I started to solve problems with killing. I have yet to kill anything since I became their master. And before you became their master? The blonde paused, petting the Pokemon. He stared at Dragonite hardly as the draconic Pokemon regretted asking the question as soon as the last syllable got out of his maw. They held their gazes for a short time, then the Pokemon averted his eyes. There was a tense silence. The blonde resumed petting. Well, I was scratching millions, that was before the doomsday of course. Then everything. It doesn't matter. What matters is I very much prefer if you don't go back to Lysander and force me to tie the loose end. I am unsure if I should go back and tie before anyone else get hurt. He kissed Lucario's head as the blue Pokemon fell asleep from fatigue of the eventful day. He lied the Pokemon next to the fox. He absently ran his fingers over their fur. Otherwise you are free to do whatever you wish. He let them think over what he said and what they should do and gently probed the fox's mind with his chakra. Ninetales' mind. Everything was black. His consciousness traveled deeper parts of his mind to escape from pain. But he was happy. He managed to let his sister escape from this. His sister was free from them. At least one of them could live freely instead of waiting for the day. He curled around himself in the void, waiting for the humans to get bored with causing him pain. Get bored and finally end his suffering. Through death or throw him away, life and old rug or both. Until then he would sleep. At least that was the plan. That was the plan until he saw a human with light blue ethereal wings appear. He had long blonde hair, blue eyes with slits, sun-kissed skin garbed with tattered black t-shirt, shorts and a pair of sandals covered with ethereal light blue flames. The blonde flew closer to him. He is an angel, he decided. Here to take him and end his suffering perhaps. But it didn't matter. He didn't care whatever he is. As long as the blonde take him away from hands of those cruel humans, he would be his angel. The angel landed in front of him, gentle blue eyes met happy red ones. Happy like someone finally reunites with a long-lost lover or friend. Angel, are you here to take me away? Take my soul away from those humans. He chanted please say yes in his mind. The angel frowned. He knelt down in an arm's length away from him. I am here to wake you up. Such a beautiful voice, but such a terrifying sentence he half growled half whined. No. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you forcing me back to pain? He demanded, his voice cracking halfway. The blonde waited for the fox to finish. Because your sister wants her brother back. The words echoed in the void they were in. My sister? How do you know my sister? Can he see her again? But does that mean they recaptured her? She begged me to save you from Team Flare, those humans you were talking about. And I can't say it is a save if you are not fully with her. Did his sister really find help? Was he really going to be free and with her? Was he dreaming? His wide eyes narrowed to normal. Yes, he must be dreaming. Then bring her to here, I want to see her at least in this sweet dream. The blonde grinned at him. You will see her in due time. Right now, you should wake up. I sent her to get something for you to eat. But Sai, you don't understand, you will be gone along with my chance at seeing my sister one last time if I wake up. All left for me will be pain. So please, just the blonde put his palm to his head softly and caressed the fur there. I swear I will be with you when you wake up. I swear you will be reunited with your sister when she comes back. I swear what you find when you wake up will not be pain. The blonde continued to caress. He closed his eyes and enjoyed the touch for a bit. It is time for you to return. Against his better judgment, he believed in the angel. Light exploded behind his eyelids. Awake world. The Ninetales' eyelids fluttered. He hesitantly opened them. He still could feel the angel's palm on his head. His eyes landed on the blonde. He didn't have those ethereal wings or burning clothes, but it was him, the angel. In his peripheral he can see a group of Pokémon close by and a Lucario sleeping next to him. I am here as I said. And you sister should be close by. You are free. The blonde's voice was already so beautiful now he said the best thing he ever heard for a long while perhaps ever. Perhaps he really was an angel. Not his angel, but a literal one. He already earned the title of being his angel. Brother. Vulpix threw everything to ground and ran to her brother literally. The little pile of berries on her tails couldn't hold on over her mad dash. She slammed on her brother's side. Ninetales hugged the smaller Pokémon to himself with his tails. Typhoon let them have their moment and focused on the Pokémon group. He smiled gently. Then the fox duo added him to their embrace before he can say anything. Vulpix was saying something, most likely thanking him, but his mind was too busy with the feeling of all too familiar warm embrace of tails. Then, the tails were suddenly thicker and fiery orange. He coiled his arms around them and waited for two fur-covered arms to. He mentally slapped himself. This was Vulpix's brother, Ninetales. Not Sycamore, his Ninetales. Still, he smiled a little, he can enjoy the warm embrace. Thank you, angel. Thank you for everything. His eyes widened then narrowed to normal. He sighed but didn't said anything. Just ran his fingers around the fur on tails around him and Vulpix's head. He is free to call him whatever he wishes, even if he is a demon god rather than an angel. He may have dropped the mantle of the title, but that won't change what he is. His team heard what the fox said. Do you think what Ninetales said can be true? Is Master really an angel? Greninja asked to his teammates slowly, causing them to think about it and then all to have wide eyes. Mewtwo listened to them. The more they think about it, more it made sense. He isn't a human, as he said several times before. But I think he wants to be treated as one. Zoroark threw the fact in his thoughts. You are right, he wants to be treated as a normal human, he told me when I met him in his dream. They flinched at the legendary, they weren't used to his presence yet. Even if his actions oppose his words, I am not complaining of course. He pitched in when things went south in the HQ, otherwise just commanded them like a normal human. He has an array of strange powers I haven't seen anywhere else. Blaziken, the most experienced one in their group, shared his piece. Most experienced and saw enough of the blonde's power firsthand to make a deduction. He is so strong, tough, fast and his moves are so graceful all can be easily called unnatural. Chestnut half muttered, half pointed out. He is so compassionate and has very advanced healing skills. Floatzel added. Lucario told them about the Houndoom incident. He was supposed to be crippled, for a wound from Houndoom fire never heals, and yet here he is, as healthy as if the damage never done after the blonde's treatment. And of course, he has a body and charm that hardly can be earthly. They all nodded with flustered faces at the Delphox comment. Except Mewtwo, but he was flustered too. But what about before? Greninja asked hesitantly. Before? It was clashing with his belief. But we didn't have any guarantee of survival for the next second. Did he had any other option? Zoroark's words cut deeply, both their thoughts and hearts. They stared down in sadness. No, he most likely did not. Eyes? What are you talking about? Of course Floatzel was confused, she wasn't with them that day. Greninja explained it to his fellow water type and the legendary as a side effect. He also went over his old lover for the legendary. She was crying when he finished while Mewtwo just stared away with detachment. Perhaps he was like him old him at some point. But how did he turn to what he is right now? And why? This is the world if you destroy everything. I had been alone for so long that there wasn't anything left in me except loneliness. Mewtwo's eyes widened. Floatzel dashed at the blonde and Tackle hugged him. He managed to move the fox on his lap to safety before the otter Pokémon crushed her. Floatzel. What is wrong? His voice was gentle, but it had opposite effect of what he intended as the Pokémon cried harder. She just cried and clung to his neck without saying anything. He rubbed her back in confusion as she continued to cry. It doesn't matter if he was an angel, demon, human or even a god, he was their beloved master. Mewtwo's eyes softened. Even if he really purged a world from life, he must have a reason to do so. Or perhaps he just survived while they massacred each other. With the kind of people they were, it is quite possible. And even if he massacred them without a reason, he was a different person now. At least he hoped again, with all his might. Hello. What? Typhoon's amused gaze watched the professor as he nearly fell from his seat, only reason he didn't was because the blonde caught it. He fixed it with a snicker as the professor tried to shake off his fright. You are working hard, perhaps too hard if you were so absorbed to it. Master? Are you Algarchomp burst inside but froze after that. You should pry him away from he stared at what the professor was so concentrated on. It's a computer, but it wasn't like any he saw from his old world, perhaps a product of higher technology. I nearly gave him a heart attack. Typhoon. Hey girl. The Pokémon tackled him like they hadn't seen each other for years. He chuckled. I wasn't gone for that long, you know, not even a month. So? I missed you. He chuckled again and rubbed her head. He deemed the professor took enough time to recover. Hello again, professor. How are you? The professor heaved one last slow sigh to calm his nerves. I was fine a minute ago, the blonde snorted in amusement. But guess I will live. How about you? And his eyes traveled to the blonde's team. Wow, they have grown up already. He beamed at the sheepish trio waving at him. Professor, you are embarrassing us. Sycamore didn't understand what Chestnut said, of course, but his embarrassment was noticeable for him. You are good at this, aren't you? He aimed it to the blonde. He shrugged casually. Seems like I am. He rubbed the clingy Garchomp's head again. She flustered and his team's casual expression strained. Let him go before I blast the daylight out of you, dragon bitch. More or less all of them shared Greninja's thoughts, but they knew better than making a scene. It would probably make the blonde angry. It will make the blonde sad and disappointed. In short, unacceptable. They bit their tongues and tried to make their grimaces look like smiles instead. Typhoon saw their faces and sighed internally. How jealous, he figured he should distract them before their restraint snapped, at least while they were in the lab. They may have some action outside if they want. Professor, can I ask you a favor? Sure, how can I help? I acquired several Pokémon. Can you examine them for any kind of problems for me? Acquired? Yeah, just examined them alright. They said they are fine, but I don't want any problems we could have prevent come up later. The professor sighed, but he was more than alright to ask anything. His gift accelerated his searches tremendously, he owed him one, well, more than one. His jeweler friend said he have never seen a diamond that big and that high quality. He said he can buy several continents with it. It was that perfect, more than enough to compensate for any and all equipment he needed for his researches. Still, selling it left a bad taste in his mouth, it was a gift after all. Sure. Where are they? They were shy to get inside the lab, so I sent them to your backyard instead. Sycamore hummed. Let's go then. The blonde stared at the computer for a second. There was no need to wonder if they had a network with their technology, and it would help accelerate his understanding of this world and its rules. Maybe later, he decided, and followed the professor. At least tried to. Garchomp was still clinging on him. Garchomp? 5 more minutes. The blonde sighed. Garchomp, my team may attack you if you continue, they are getting jealous. He said lowly. She looked over his shoulder to check. Blaziken grinned, but she can see slight smoke every time he breathed. Braixen didn't even bothered, just fingered the stick in his sleeve with an expressionless face. Greninja loosened and retightened his tongue scarf with a hard stare. Chestnut smiled with too much teeth, and she almost can see extra thorns on his body. Zoroark waved at her, his claws glinted dangerously. Lucario frowned at her, and his aura sensors levitated a bit every once in a while. Floatzel waved with an eye smile, but she swallowed too frequently to be normal, like she was on brink of using water gun, but pressing it down at last second. And I am sure Sycamore wouldn't like it if you all make a scene in his lab. Garchomp backed off with several layers of resistance. Typhoon joined his team and their expressions turned more casual. It didn't stop them sending sparks to Garchomp behind his back as they caught up to the professor. Floatzel sneezed and accidentally sent a low-powered water gun near the dual type's feet. Garchomp growled. "Floatzel," she yelped. Master. Do you like the professor's lab?" She internally sighed in relief. "Why yes, it's a nice place. Nothing like. Then perhaps you should wait to get out of here before you start bickering with Garchomp. We don't want to cause any damage, do we?" Floatzel gulped. She did get caught after all. "Oh of course not." He turned around with an eye smile and caressed her head. "But girl." She flustered. She was half embarrassed, half pleased by being called that. They arrived and it was another near heart attack for the professor. 3 legendaries, Lysander's team and Fox siblings were waiting outside. Lysander's team as well as the Fox siblings decided to join the blonde for the time being. What the just where did you? We are kind of broken. Team Flare HQ, go wild on staff, rescued a swarm of Pokemon including them and spook some sense to Lysander at least I hope. Typhoon explained shortly. Sycamore blinked several times to process the info. "Professor? Did I break him?" The professor sighed. "I don't know if I should be surprised." The blonde grinned. "What do you want me to do?" He got serious again. Lysander linked them to a doomsday device. "I destroyed the device, but I want you to check if there is any lingering effect left." The professor nodded. "We are honored with your care, master, but we are fine." The blonde hummed. "I thought it is a moniker Pokemon calls to their leader. Caretaker." He looked at his team. "Trainer." Blaziken replied. "Yes, trainer. My name is Typhoon." "Wait, you haven't saved us because you want us to join you?" She thought that was the reason, only reason came to her mind. As sister he tried to stop her before she became a bother, but she just ignored him. The blonde shook his head. "Then you saved us because surely he had a reason to save them, right?" "Do I need a reason?" Silence. "Do I need a reason to save a group of enslaved living beings? Innocent living beings? I broke in because this little Vulpix here." He took the Pokemon to his arms. She didn't object, just stared up at him. "Asked me to save her brother. You don't owe me anything by the way." The fox lips trembled and she rested her head on his chest. Mewtwo realized then and there that he doesn't need to fear, doesn't need to hesitate, doesn't need to worry anymore. He found his master, real master and not a master in name. Someone he can trust. Someone he can trust with his power, someone he can trust with his back, someone he can trust with his life. Someone he can trust with his love. He may or may not cleanse the world from living, but it is past. And even if his own past can't hold a candle over his, it wasn't exactly all flowers and candies either. He can't really judge him. "Master, I am honored to call you that," he thought as he watched the blonde protested when the life and dead duo bowed their heads to him. Then Garchomp hugged him from behind suddenly and burrowed her nose to his hair. Floatzel had enough and shot her with a low-powered water gun. She growled and let the blonde go to tackle the otter Pokemon. Chestnut tried to separate them, but he ended up joining the fight. Others pitched in to help and before long it was a slugfest. Hard to track who punched who or who kicked who. Thankfully, they had enough sense to not use any actual attacks. So, it was more of a fist fighting than battling. Sycamore was shouting protests while the blonde sighed with an exasperated expression. He didn't do anything to stop them however, perhaps he was used to this kind of thing. He walked closer to the blonde. He saw a ghost of a grin on the blonde's face with a closer look, but he was exasperated nonetheless. "Master, shall we do anything?" The blonde hummed and sighed. "No, they are just being young. But we shall if they take it too much." "Can you define too much?" The blonde snorted in amusement. "Well, they have yet to start using skills, have they?" The legendary hummed in response. They watched them fight a bit more, then Mewtwo's eyes trailed down on the blonde's hand. He looked up to the blonde to see he was watching their fight and Sycamore's struggles with exasperated amusement. He looked away and slowly brought his pink hand to the blonde's unkissed one. The blonde looked down to the shy touch on his hand and grabbed the pink hand. Mewtwo's eyes shot to the united hands with a fluster, then it climbed up to the blonde's sapphire gaze. They held the eye contact for a moment, then the blonde eye smiled at the legendary. Mewtwo averted his gaze as his fluster darkened to a blush. The blonde rubbed thumb over the legendary's knuckles. They stood a bit more, then Mewtwo gathered his courage and pecked the blonde on his cheek. He faced his front with a bowed head and closed his eyes, expecting a slap or punch, but the blonde walked in front of him and pushed his chin up gently with his curled pointer. Their eyes met again. The blonde's is a warm blue gaze, while Mewtwo's is a bewildered just a moment away from fleeing pink gaze, then the blonde gently connected their lips. Mewtwo gasped from his nose as his mind blanked for a moment. Then it rushed back and he hesitantly responded with a shy, inexperienced performance. Several seconds later the blonde pulled back and the pink legendary panted softly. The blonde eye smiled again and continued his watch over the slugfest. Mewtwo gently trailed his stubby fingers over his lips with a red face. Mewtwo understood why they are fighting over him and agreed completely. He was wonderful. He was a treasure to be cherished. They were outside and it was nighttime. A campfire was lighting the surrounding area gently as a small swarm of Pokémon was resting around the embers. He left the legendary duo with Sycamore for a thorough examination. The professor gave him a device called Pocket. He said it was used for long-distance communication. "So, what are you going to do now?" The question was asked to two groups. Fox siblings and Lysander's ex-team. All eyes landed on him. "We decided. We are not." Two Pokémon tried to answer at the same time, then faced each other. The blonde didn't give any reaction, only waited while watching the dancing embers. Ninetales gestured the blonde with one of his tails. Pyroar took a deep breath, held it for a few seconds, and let it out. "We decided to join you for a while, perhaps until we meet Lysander again." What he was doing to the Pokémon there was a shock to us too. We believed Lysander was really working for a better future, and we were helping him on it. The blonde was silent for a while, just watching flames. "What is this better future? Can you explain it to me?" Pyroar blinked. He was staring at flames so he didn't know if he was seriously asking or not. There was a silence for some time, then the blonde faced him with an expectant gaze. "Well, it seems he was seriously asking. It is a future where he trailed off." Admittedly, Lysander was vague about that. He told them he was working for a better future with no bad people in it, but if what the blonde said was true, the orange-haired man's idea of better future was a future without life. The blonde's gaze returned to the embers. "It seems even you don't know what better future is. You were just following Lysander blindly." The lion frowned, but he would admit the blonde was right. "Do you fear death, Pyroar?" The fire lion and others blinked at the question. "Of course. Everyone does. Do you wish to live a good life? Perhaps with a mate and a few young ones or a good master and team, friends, a life like that?" "Yes, of course." The Pokémon didn't know where this was going, but responded honestly. "Do you have regrets?" "Yes, I should have understood Lysander's intentions better before I lent him my loyalty." The blonde hummed and poked the fire with a stick. He was otherwise silent. Several beats passed. "Can I ask why you ask those questions?" The blonde hummed again. "I am just trying to understand why you followed Lysander blindly, like your life doesn't belong to you when you have fears, wishes and some measure of experience, in short, a life of your own. You are not so different from, say, Blaziken. He too fears death like every living being." He faced the avian, who shrugged. "He too wishes for a better life." "I already have it, master. You make me happy. I am content with being with you." The blonde smiled at him. "But wouldn't you like to take a mate and raise some young Pokémon, or at least chase a love life? Love is blind, so he can love whoever he wishes. It doesn't have to be another Blaziken or even a different gender." The avian thought a little. The idea of having some young were good, but his mind couldn't come up with any Pokémon to be with. He tried harder, but the result was same. He changed tactics and imagined himself mating. He mentally went over possible candidates. Any Pokémon drew his fancy before he separated his way with his old Mahim, and afterwards, before he met with the blonde. The blonde, Typhoon, his master. Just that moment his desire chose the blonde before he can do anything about it. He was attracted to him, crushing on him before, but now lust added itself to the mixture and it wasn't innocent anymore. He tried to change it with another Pokémon. He wasn't even sure if the blonde is willing to go that far, but his heart and rooster already chose his master. His imagination started to run wild before he can leash it. Mini, MNSWF. He could imagine nighttime. He was sitting on ground and his arms rubbing around Typhoon's naked body. He gasped as his master pushed him on ground to lie down and grinded their crotches while rubbing his chest. He was breathing deeply as he tried to take a closer look at the face closing over his own, but it was too dark to see anything except two faintly glowing blue eyes and a curtain of sweet-smelling blonde hair. He gasped again as one of his master's hands sneaked down and squeezed their lengths together without stopping grinding. He then took advantage of his open mouth and owned it. Making him, a fire type, burn something fierce. He tried to respond at first, to fight the intrusion, but he was completely outclassed as the blonde's much more experienced and long tongue explored his beakish mouth while giving his own tongue full-length strokes every time it passed over. He allowed the blonde to whatever he wished to do without much choice, but he wasn't exactly complaining. His mind was too busy with enjoying that magnificent fire for thinking about anything else. Then the blonde pulled his tongue out of his mouth but continued to kiss him. Their eyes met again after he realized he closed in his euphoria and opened them. Their eyes never ceased to look each other as the blonde gently raised his legs to give his body enough space, slowly dragged his hips down and down. SFW. Blaziken. His eyes blinked open and he blinked several times. He swallowed thickly and thanked his lucky stars for choosing to sit Indian style. Maybe one day, if I find someone like that. Until then I'm happy to be with you. He hoped his arousal didn't reflect to his voice, too much I already found you master. But I would be happier if we were more. The avian looked away with a redder face. He smiled at what he had in his mind. Perhaps I will ask him later. He too has regrets. Blaziken stared down. Yes. Yes, he did. But his blue gaze landed on the blonde staring at the flames. In the end it all led him to the blonde. In the end life was still going on and he was happy with his life. So, I find it hard to understand why you want to just give reins of your life when it is so normal and promising. He stared at the avian, their eyes met. Would you want to do something like that, Blaziken? The avian thought hard. He took several seconds before answering. The Aegis I would if I completely trust them. The avian averted his gaze. Why you are that person to me. How did a few short weeks change his human-hating viewpoint to this? How did the human had such a power on him? Them? The blonde blinked and his gaze raked over rest of his team. Their eyes were nervous but agreeing, fearing they were doing something wrong but still doing it. Even Mewtwo was same. He sighed. I understand your wish to put your trust to someone but never follow someone blindly. Even if that someone is the one you trust with your everything. His voice was gentle but stern nonetheless. Because if that person steers away from their way, it is up to you to help them with force if necessary back to track. That's why you are that person to me, master. You are very wise and you seem to know what to do in every situation and know where to go and how to go to the last step. It is like you already lived countless lives and know the life inside out. Good thing the blonde didn't need to breath anymore or he would be choking on his spit. I trust you because I know you are the last one in our team to steer away from his way as you said. I trust you because I think, no you are the person to show us, guide us, the right way and help us on it. And do you know what is the best? You allow us to choose accepting your way and following or declining and leaving. I don't think a Pokemon trainer would do that. They would simply capture and force the Pokemon their way if the Pokemon does not agree with them. So I trust you, believe in your judgment and accept your way. The Pokemon ended with a small bow and grin. I see. I am happy to know that you hold me on a such high place. But he trailed off. Remains of a Houndoom lied at his feet, body had been sliced to little meat cubes and blood enriching the soil underneath. Cold gaze watched the blood absorbed by the earth for a few moments dispassionately then right index twitched to his thumb to reseal the Red Reaper. A Gyarados, sliced from her head to tail tip with one clean slash. A perfectly symmetrical cut dividing the Pokemon into two, blood first flowing, then connecting in middle. A Tyranitar cleanly cut severed limbs and body lies in a pile, blood pooling underneath it. A Pyro or at least body, head lies feet ahead and body twitching its last energy. A Dragonite body sliced open and gut spilling with endless blood. Shock and pain evident on all these Pokemon. But the worst is their master. Outside he is alright, but the blonde inflicted lots of painful deaths upon him in their private dimension aka. The blonde's mindscape, from turning him inside out to burned him alive and replaced his blood with acid to flay him alive. His heart gave out after several days of torture crushed into a single cursed second. His icy gaze trailed over their bodies and resealed his sword back. He walked away for the last time without turning back. Do need you as much as you need me. But I love you enough to let you go if you choose to do so. And even then, I will stay my hand. I will try not to corrupt your world and my heaven with my darkness. Be very well. No matter how much this rubs me wrong way, if it is what you want. I will respect your choices. His team walked closer and buried him in a group hug. This was why they fought over him. This was why they tried their best to make him happy and proud. This was why they followed him. He is wonderful. He is a treasure to be cherished. He is an angel. He is their beloved master. Iroar stared down. Why couldn't Lysander be someone like him? But. Can anyone be like him? He made his choice, a choice he shared with his teammates. His gaze flew across to the Fox siblings to see they were watching them longingly. The blonde saw the siblings' expression and waved to come to them. They skipped into the hug. Master he couldn't meet the blonde's eyes, nor could speak easily with the knots in his throat. CC can you sing to us again? What if Naruto is sent to the Pokemon World Harem end here and thanks for watching my video till the end.